Howdy, folks. Your host, Double J, back here, host of Operation GCD, and perhaps more notably, not the vice president. Of course, we are also welcomed in the introduction by my old stalker, Buffalo Jared Revisa, multi state homicidal maniac and probably a mind control killer. And welcome my co host here tonight, Nick. Greetings, sir, host of the Occult Rejects. Great to see you on Friday, sir.
Hell yeah, of course. Always look forward to this show. Doing very well, sir.
Yeah, I apologize to the folks of the interwebs here on our delays because we were expecting another guest this evening. We're expecting a guest this evening, and sadly, did not happen. But we have a special co-host this evening, Heidi Luv, the host of the Unfiltered Rise podcast and fellow Occult Reject. Welcome, Heidi.
Thanks for having me. Glad we get a chat.
Hell yeah,
absolutely.
Even though we're minus one.
What's that?
Yeah. Even though we're -1, we'll still make it fun.
I was gonna say I was looking forward to getting into some of those subjects, but I think we're gonna do a detour from our guest subjects tonight. But before we get started off, Nick, do you have any thing you're working on over there at the Occult Rejects? I know you've been busy on a couple projects.
Oh yeah, for myself that I'm working on, which will be probably coming out like a month and a half. Jacob Bohm. I'm doing a solo show on that. Yeah,
who's
but
he was before. I don't know him.
1560, late 1500s.
Yeah,
he's an older one. Yeah, he was. I mean, I wouldn't say he wasn't somebody who was originally supposedly into the occult. It was more or less that he had some like mystical experience that like blew his mind, and that's what kind of brought him into the occult. So it's kind of like seeing, I guess, like the non-magician for a regular person who happened to have an experience that got into this stuff. Different.
So he wasn't a part of any magical or hermetic order. He was doing his own.
There are some theories that I put in there for myself. I don't want to spoil it. That I did wonder if maybe he was, because there's some identical things with other orders at the time. But
yeah.
But I don't know. With him too, extremely Bible based as well. He's very big into like Genesis too.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just another interesting character that he inspired a lot of other occultists that came after him. That inspired.
That's what I was going to ask you. Who was his major influence on?
He did also inspire like Marsilio Ficino. I covered him. I think Athanasius Kircher possibly. There's a couple of people that I know that I have. Rudolph. He definitely Helena Blavatsky. Yeah.
Oh, who was it? Who was that? I cut out over here. What were you saying?
He's inspired Rudolph Blavatsky, a whole bunch of people.
Oh, they said Madame Blavatsky. So who's Rudolph Blavatsky?
No, Rudolph. I'm sorry, Rudolph Steiner and Madame Blavatsky. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. I was about to say, did they have a kid? They combined have a kid there?
Maybe they did. Yeah.
Right.
That
sounds like an interesting series. It sounds like a character.
Yeah, we'll definitely be able. It's going to be layered with tons of visuals too. I highly suggest to watch it. I probably created about over 200 images for this fucking show, so please watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that. And then next week, just real quick to throw that out there, we got Occult Architect Rudolph Steiner Part 2 dropping. And Friday, we do have The Mound Builders with Gregory Little finally dropping on my end.
Yeah.
That is coming out. And then after that, the week after that, I got the first solo of the shows I'm going to start doing. I got Robert Flood, Alchemist and Physician. Definitely check that out when it drops. And that's a full like 4K, all visuals too. I highly suggest to check that out.
Love it.
Yes,
that's awesome. Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. I definitely look forward to listen more of that occult series, because that character, if he's influential on Steiner and Blavatsky, I mean, that's all these ancient alien cargo cults kind of yield from those ideas and theologies.
Really interesting. He doesn't talk about aliens, so it's like, where the fuck did they pull that out of the restaurant?
Yeah, there you go. Nice. Well, Heidi, I appreciate you joining us here again, ma'am, as our co-host / guest on Fridays. You're dual-hatted this evening now. I'm signed up for 2 jobs.
I'm excited about it. Heck yeah. I've been going down the Gemstone files, Mr. Onassis, Opal files. I've gone crazy on that thing. My brain's all over in the JFK. Yeah.
So that's a lot of the stuff we've been covering on the Mormon Mafia series on the Occult Rejects, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm getting ready to drop that one on the Occult Rejects pretty soon. It's going to be
Oh, yeah, but
probably about a week and a half, and it'll be ready with Onassis. So, daughter died in the bathtub at 37 from diet pills. Sure, she did. Sure.
that's like
Right.
another
Typical.
type situation.
Yep. I saw the bathtub
Well,
and went, yeah, okay.
I've definitely learned a number of, despite my knowledge and interest in Mormon business and Mormon history and parapolitics related to them. I've certainly learned a number of things there from joining in and providing commentary on your series there, Heidi. So some great stuff. I highly recommend folks check out, especially when I discovered these connections between the Moore Shield and Jacqueline, Kennedy, Jackie Kennedy, right? From back in her childhood.
Yes. Uncle George, as she
Jacqueline
lovingly
Bouvier.
says. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Born
Very
to a hereditary member of the French chapter of the society, right? Society of the Cincinnati.
That's right. Absolutely was. And I was shocked at that. Like
Yeah.
once you opened up the Society of Cincinnati stuff on me, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a whole nother level. Never
Right?
stop. It never stops.
No, it's awesome because I definitely appreciate you bringing the Bouvier guy to my attention because I've recently been real deep in trying to understand the French chapter. So, I wasn't looking at him and I had no knowledge of that, but I was already in the midst of looking at, all of his friends. So it was perfect timing.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Are you doing something on that one?
It's gotten to the point with the society, Heidi, especially with these French families. If it's almost if there's a French surname that's commonplace, like it's known in American history or culture as a household name of some regard, and then they're a member of the Society of Cincinnati, be it the Bouviers, the Bonapartes, the DuPonts. I recently discovered the LaBeoufs, like Shia LaBeouf.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's a member, but there's LaBeouf membership in the French chapter of the society, largely focused around New Orleans and around the War of 1812 is when they all were coming over here, preceding that and during that, including as which kinfolk of the new Pope, the new American Pope.
Oh, well, I mean, a Pope from Chicago. I mean,
yeah, with French Protestant roots.
Yeah.
Yeah, how does that happen? How's a French Protestant Pope from Chicago get appointed in Rome? But we'll see how that works out. But now I definitely appreciate looking, the things you brought up with the Mormon stuff and the Society of Cincinnati stuff. That's awesome. I definitely recommend folks check that out, that series.
Thank you. It'll be on the Occult Rejects. It'll be coming up soon. I'm excited.
And we're doing another part, right? When we're going to do another part in this series?
Yeah, that'll be the Onassis. Soon as he's been waiting on all my research. I think I'm on my 4th book. I think at this point, Onassis, I'm Onassised out. I'm ready to write it. I'm like, okay. But he's fascinating, honestly. So
sure.
Yeah.
Anything else you're working on the Unfiltered podcast that you'd like to let folks know about here this evening?
Actually, yes. Robbie Marks has been on. We are doing a Solomon's Temple series, and I am doing the 3rd installment of that next week on recording, and it will be coming up soon. So,
that sounds awesome.
Mormon interjection of the Solomon's Temple there. He's let me interfere with his research and correlate many things. Yeah, on accident. I'm supposed to be listening, and then I just,
I love seeing Robbie.
Yeah, I enjoy Robbie's insight. He's got some unique insight on a lot of topics.
Yes.
Fellow Occult Rejects.
The Occult Rejects series that he did with Nick is why I asked him, because I said that was freaking amazing. I just can't. I'm like, I have to hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a serious. He brings a lot of research when he does cover a topic. Like he has pages and pages and pages.
Sure.
He had books. Yeah, it was like full books of his writing.
He's writing one now that's almost done, and I think he said when he does, he's going to come on the show and promote it.
Awesome.
I think he said he was going to give like a chapter to the website as like a sample. People to check.
That's going to be awesome. Hell yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I look forward to that. And then we're doing joining you and Tim from Sixth Century Podcast here next week, talking some Mormon and Society of Cincinnati business.
Yes, and
definitely looking forward to that one.
Tim's a nice guy.
Weird Mormon ley lines. Yes, Tim's great.
Yeah,
shout out to
Mormon ley lines. Yeah, no, I like Tim. He's a sharp dude. We had him on a few weeks ago. Folks should check out that show here on Fridays. Myself, Nick, and Tim from the Sixth Sensory podcast. Definitely looking forward to that one for sure. And I don't know what I'm working on Operation GCD. Let me think about that for a second. I forgot. I knew something was going on. Oh, that's right. I got doing an occult and a esoteric review with the on Back to the Future next Wednesday.
right.
Operation GCD Live.
You
Along with
mean
Nick,
Biff?
Jen, and
Like-
Cosmic Peach.
Like Biff, like Hiram Abiff? You're going to talk about
Oh,
Biff?
that's a good one. Yeah, so there's a lot of Masonic symbolism in that for sure, isn't there?
Yeah, there's stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You're certainly welcome to join us, Heidi, if you'd like to. If you're available on Wednesday
yeah.
night at 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Awesome.
I highly
If I
recommend
am
folks check
not
that out
working,
because you're
yeah.
I think
probably
that's
going to be a
gonna
little
be
bit
fun
more
to know.
knowledgeable on the Masonic stuff than I am, but I am familiar with some of that Masonic symbolism in there.
Awesome. This coming Wednesday? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll look at it when I get off of here. That's exciting. Heck yeah.
I'm
And
gonna
then,
watch it.
I'm starting a. Oh, go ahead, Nick. What was that?
I'm gonna watch it again over the weekend and take more notes. I'm like excited to
Oh,
cover
for
it.
sure.
I'm gonna
I
consider
love
it
that show.
used to keep watching it.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. That's my plan for tomorrow is to watch it sometime tomorrow.
Nice.
But yeah, probably watch it twice for we do the show.
Such
I've
a good
seen it
show.
hundreds of times. It really, it's still, I still enjoy the film. It's an exciting storyline. It's well written. I think it is the esoteric nature of these characters and the plot line that is so compelling. So that's one of the
Wow.
things I think that has made it so successful, right?
Time travel. Anytime you mix time travel with he's gonna sleep with his mom, yeah, it's occultic.
Yeah, right. It gets real creepy. Well, that's the part I don't like about it. When you start considering these things as an adult, it gets real creepy with all this incest and pedophilia
Yo, yeah.
business.
The last time when I watched it, I was just like, and I think I said this before, and I won't be so drastic about the way I said it, but like, I was like, yo, this is like a little freaky. Like the mother was like a little forward there. I was like, this is.
Yeah.
It was just like.
Mm.
I
I'm
believe
just-
the proper nomenclature for that era of time is whore.
And like, I guess like in the movie, you're gonna make it seem however, but like if that was real life, I still don't think like I would have given her like as much leeway as he was given. I would have been like, yo, get the fuck out of here, you're nuts. Like I wouldn't be like having a conversation with her like this. It was just very weird and creepy when you're looking at it. I was like, this is just, yeah, that's his mother.
No, I totally agree, man. I totally agree. It's I like the film on its face, but it's got some dark undertones to it, and especially if you listen to Crispin Glover, the actor that played Marty McFly's dad, who only on the first film because they fired him after the first one, but he wrote a 17-page manifesto blasting the production executives, etc., on doing a bunch of kid diddling on that set. So a lot of dark stuff apparently there, according to old Crispin Glover. Yeah, folks, check that out on Wednesday. Operation GCD Live this Sunday, but the following Sunday on the 25th, I'll be starting Operation GCD Live Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Patreon. So I'll have a link in the show notes for that and on my link tree. So and on my social media. So going to be doing a lot of true crime and high weirdness events and incidents that I've encountered in my adventures. Not the least of which is Robert the Doll, which I believe you all were talking about the other night on Headless's mailbag. I saw.
Yes.
So that's always a fun tale. No, so yeah, definitely check that stuff out. But we had a few topics on deck for tonight, but obviously without the guests, we were going to take a detour. And I know you just published the episode recently, right? The Occult Elvis, Nick.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, I think that was probably like 2 weeks ago. About now.
Yeah, that was a really I enjoyed the conversation. I mean, Miguel Connor seems like a real nice dude. He's done some good research there into the occult interests of Elvis Presley.
Yeah, I mean, it was more than I knew. So I mean, it definitely was. Yeah, I thought it was interesting as hell. He's working on David Bowie now too.
It's gonna be so good.
Yeah,
That's gonna be a good one because he's so outward about it. It's
yeah, but definitely with that Elvis stuff. I mean, again, like, listen, I mean, I get, people look at things differently. I still would be entertained to cover Elvis just in a different light than Miguel did. I think he was, highly suspect of, other things, or other agencies.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, but it was just like now, just like knowing how much of occultism that was involved with that guy and how open he kind of was to an extent, totally just makes things so much different now with that dude. In my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to say if he was like real or like you said, if he's putting on a show for a cover up for certain, things. Who knows? Little
Yeah,
three-letter agency.
or is he just there like to influence people through the music?
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite obvious he was able to. So.
Oh, for sure. Definitely.
I'm breaking up over here, but were you saying, Nick, that Elvis was deeper into intelligence agencies? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think that that's just my opinion. I think he was into something with that, one of those things.
I think he's in deep, dude. He's in he was a badge junkie, so you want to hold badges everywhere, right? So when I brought that up to Miguel, I wasn't expecting to get a lot of pushback because to me it seems like intel, spook activity goes hand in hand with occultism from John D to Crowley to Elvis, right?
Yo, the CIA loves occultists.
Yeah,
love them.
Oh, for sure. Well, and then look at major CIA operations officer, Miles Copeland. He was a Scientologist. His son started MTV.
Even going back to Charles Brace, who started the orphan trains, Charles Loring Brace. I got some pushback from somebody on a recent show, and they said he wasn't a Freemason, he was this and this, and I said, no, I'm gonna look. I know he was in something, and not a Freemason, in an occultic secret order that he wouldn't even let out what it was, period, dot, and he was a spy. But don't look at that, they said. Goes clear back.
Yeah, I apologize. Keep cutting out here. I missed all that, Heidi.
Oh, shoot. I was talking about Charles Loring Brace that started the orphan trains. He was a spy.
Oh.
And so going back to what you guys said, they love occultists. He was in a secret society and a spy.
Yeah, I think it goes hand in hand. I mean, again, I think it's not two things that over time that, evolved separately. It was over time. These were, if you were, into doing spook stuff, you're also into occult stuff. I think the spycraft is very much a magic show of sorts, right?
Right. Absolutely.
It's, in a general sense, it's convincing somebody else of some the reality is different than what they're viewing, right?
Always. Whatever they want you to see.
Yeah. So it was shocking to me to learn, when as much as I know about my kinfolk, old Charles Manson, we're both Maynards from Pikeville, Kentucky. Old Chuck and I. I've been interested in this dude for a very long time. I've been reading books about him for over a decade plus. And I had no idea he was so connected to Elvis Presley until Miguel Connor had brought that up. So
I didn't know that either. I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
definitely. Yeah, it was a new revelation. So I look further into that, right? I mean, that's good for Miguel for bringing that to our attention because that's some good stuff. But look further into it, he was really in deep with the Manson family. So Elvis's spiritual guide was Jay Sebring's business partner and fellow hairdresser. And they all knew Elvis on a first name. Him and Sebring knew each other on a first name. You know what I mean? And he knew Sharon Tate because Sharon Tate when Elvis, because before Tate married Polanski, she was engaged to Sebring.
Oh.
It was old Cocaine Bob that swooped in and said, "Hey, why don't you come marry this new Polish director that we have? That I just hired at Paramount, right?" And that Polish director Polanski is now, thanks to folks like Dana Dudall over at Rotting Jewels, pointing out all the spook connections that old Roman Polanski has an origin story of. So, it was, I think it's interesting that, again, it's this epicenter of spook activity and occultism. It's really, I find really intriguing. And again, around the Manson situation. So when Miguel claimed that there was rumor that Elvis had gone to the murder home a couple of days, in the aftermath of the murder. So I was like, well, that sounds wild. But when you see that his best friend, spiritual advisor, the student that would travel with him, was also formerly Jay Sebring's business partner in that hair salon, and obviously, presumably, by that means a fellow drug trafficker in that hair salon, right? Because that's what Sebring was doing. Sebring was a Scientologist as well, amongst other, I'm sure, occult groups he was engaged in. But nonetheless, it seems like Elvis is far more connected to the situation. And I brought up the issue of Scientology with Miguel, and as much as I respect the man's work there, I would have to disagree with him. I think I did in the show as well, that it seems like Elvis has got a lot more Scientology stuff going on there, because I think he claimed that it was not the case. And I'd have to look back in there further, but as far as Elvis's Scientology roots, it seemed like to me in the past that Priscilla started that when she was with him, and he was kind of into it at first, but then he had his outs with it. That's the way I perceived it. So while I agree with him, I think that was Miguel's conclusion. He had his outs with him with Scientology and wasn't a fan of it. I agree with that aspect, but not at first. It seemed like he was into it, and Priscilla was seemingly the one that brought him into it, So I thought that was interesting when he brought up that Priscilla was going to Manly P. Hall lectures, right?
Yeah. I mean, who's to say that's even true? No, I'm saying like maybe he was going himself. I mean, who knows? Like, and you're just, oh yeah, she went. I don't know. Just, I can't see why. I mean, maybe times were different and she was scared, but you're gonna fucking go to that and take notes for a motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I could see where it'd be a kind of a shit show to try to go out in public as Elvis Presley, especially in the 60s there. But at the same time, I feel like it's not mutually exclusive, right? I mean, Priscilla may have very well been interested in this stuff as well. Again, she's a lifelong Scientologist.
She wanted to go too.
What's that?
That's what I'm saying too. Like, she wanted to go. It wasn't just like, go. She wanted to go, yeah.
For sure. If she's a lifelong Scientologist, I can't imagine she's going to not enjoy the Manly P. Hall lecture, right?
Well, especially for Elvis, you would fly there. You would think Manly P. Hall would just go there. You know what I mean?
Right, for sure. No, that's what I'm thinking. If he wanted to get a Manly P. Hall lecture, you can get Manly P. Hall at Graceland, I'm sure.
For sure. I mean, definitely. And then, maybe he was there with Sirhan Sirhan.
Well, that's what.
Sorry.
No, you're spot on target, Heidi. That's where my head's at right now. So that's what I'm saying here. So then you look at who is Manly P. Hall. What else was he involved in this time? He's connected to Sirhan, old double Sirhan there. So double Sirhan's connected to the same people, according to a 1974 INS report. He was reported to attended numerous sex magic rituals at the Tate Polanski home in May of 1968, hosted by a quote-unquote English satanic cult. That's the process.
So weird. Yeah, so weird.
Double Sirhan's doing process stuff with the Tate Polanskis. He's mixed up with Manly P. Hall. That's what makes me really consider that the notes of Ed Sanders from the 1970s and 80s, when he's appeared to be doing the bulk of this investigation, was claiming that Manly P. Hall was deep involved in this network of process and 4-pi activities. It may, in fact, have been the Grand Shingon.
Sirhan was registered as a Rosencreut too. They put that on there in the investigation. So it doesn't surprise me. I mean, we're talking about smaller circles back then. It's not like it was everywhere. So they would all know each other. Like
I mean, it seems like a small circle of folks, so they definitely knew each other there, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so. And especially if you could get in with someone famous. Like if you were really trying to like MK Ultra someone, you definitely could use that. Like, don't you want to go to this meeting? Elvis is going to be there. What? Yeah, go.
That's science. That's why science. L. Ron Hubbard wrote a memo for that purpose, right? Saying we're going to target celebrities. I think the process did the same with the recruitment of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, etc.
Absolutely,
the Beach Boys, the Mamas and the Papas. Double Sirhan's. He wasn't famous.
We know he was
throw him in there.
Disgusting. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And who was the other one that the girl became the Dixie Chicks? Her dad. Weren't they involved in that? Or is that the Mamas and the Papas?
Yeah, Mamas and the Papas. But I say you're bringing the Dixie Chicks in there. I like it, but I'm not familiar with that. But yeah. So John Phillips was financing, according to the INS report as well, John Phillips was financing process church activities there in the late 60s in Los Angeles. And his which is interesting because again, Mama Cass was alleged to be a member also by Sanders and accordingly by the LA prosecutor's office. She was on a list of witnesses for the prosecution. She wasn't ever called, but she was on a list of witnesses for the prosecution in that trial. So,
Wilson
Phillips. I was about to say, then you got the combination of the Processian Beach Boys and the Processian Mamas and Papas with Wilson Phillips, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
That's
and the Phillips connect directly to George Hodel. So the George Hodel, his daughter, apparently they had some incestual stuff going on, and apparently so did John Phillips with his eldest daughter.
Yeah.
There. She would leave. Wow. She would leave the house living with her father, and apparently go live with Tamar Phillips, George Hodel. There we go. George Hodel's daughter. George Hodel is alleged to be the Black Dahlia killer, amongst other things.
Oh.
He was a celebrity abortion doctor to the stars. I recently learned that Bob Cocaine Evans apparently lived in the same home as him at one point in time, at a later date, obviously. But there's a famous Frank Lloyd Wright home. It's the Mayan Temple home, I think is what they call it.
Oh.
And I guess after, George Hodel, again, he was friends with like John Barrymore, John Carradine, John Huston, the Johns. This was the old Hollywood Laurel Canyon scene. These would be the people that would mentor folks like Jack Nicholson, right? And again,
Jackie Boy was there. Yeah, Jackie Boy was there.
That was John Huston's. That was John Huston's underling, right? That was his protege.
Mm-hmm.
So then I find it interesting when you see that epicenter, and then you see Bob Cocaine Evans there again, and get another one of Jack's close associates, right? PFFs.
Well, he was there when the big R word went down, right? He was there in the jacuzzi, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't think he was there. It was at his house, though. It was at his house. I think Cocaine Bob. I don't know if Cocaine Bob was there or showed up. I've read numerous accounts. I've always wondered where Cocaine Bob's other friend and Jack's other friend Marlon Brando was, because Brando shared a driveway with Jack. They had the same gated driveway. You just came in the same drive, went one way and then the other way, right? Off of Mulholland. Jack would later buy up Marlon's house and tear it down because like 5 people got murdered in there. 4 people got murdered in there.
He didn't want no evidence. He was like, not
want to get rid of all of it, right?
Oh my gosh. Oof.
Yeah, are you all familiar with this house? The Innes house. It's the Mayan temple home there in.
I am not.
Frank Lloyd Wright. Oh, it's an interesting structure.
Let's see.
Stand by 1 second, please.
It's Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yeah. A veritable Hollywood icon with over 80 screen appearances and films, is the last and largest of Wright's 4 Los Angeles area textile block houses. It's like a Mayan temple looking place, right?
Wow.
See if I can get some better pictures of it, though. Yeah, so George Hodel lived in this at one point in time, and then apparently Bob Cocaine Evans resided in here at a different point in time.
Weird.
Right?
I wouldn't want to live. Yeah, I wouldn't want to live in a house where blood paved the everything, like a replication of that. Sorry to say.
That's what I'm saying, though, Heidi. If you got folks who seemingly engaged in these rituals, and I would assert ritual human sacrifice when you're talking about the Black Dahlia murder and whatnot, especially, then these folks live in what is a Mayan temple house. I mean, was there an altar in the middle of this place? What's going on here?
And that 4-year-old kid that died, I can't remember who this was. It was super famous. You know what I'm talking about. And it was movie famous. And he was, oh man, why can't I remember that right now? But it was like a director.
Sadly, there's been a lot of children that have died, Heidi. I mean, it's sad. But I come to mind. I was about to name off like 3 or 4, but what era are we talking about here in Hollywood?
Oh, same era, and they had a big sex party, and it was weirdo, and it was like satanic, and
you talking about Virginia Rapé?
I think maybe.
And
the dad, they kept him in a box and tortured the damn kid. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know this story. What hit me with some
I'll
more
have
details,
to find
please.
it. Yeah, okay. I'll find this.
I thought you were talking about the instance of Virginia Rapé.
It was super famous in the Hollywood scene, and they were just like, oops, and then they went and partied and left the kid dead. Is that the same story?
Oh, you're talking about Vito Polikas.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, so that was December 31st, 1963.
Right.
Now he was starring. Yeah. That baby was set to star in Kenneth Anger's film Lucifer Rising. He would later be replaced in that film by Bobby Beausoleil, Lieutenant in the Manson family, right? In prison today, still for murder.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they
They
just
went.
didn't
They went out.
care.
They went out for the night afterwards, right?
They left him there and didn't care and didn't report
Yeah.
anything and went and partied. And then later they were like, "Ooh, I guess we should do something about this." What? What are you
Yeah.
talking about, you crazy people?
Well, that was so that he was kind of a proto Mansonite there. So his art gallery would be in Laurel Canyon, would be used as the Birds and other bands studio practice studio space. So they would all hang out there. It was just the epicenter of activity before Frank Zappa's Log Cabin. It was the epicenter of activity there. And in fact, his number 2 would later be Frank Zappa's number 2. Well, at least associated with the Mothers of Invention and the Zappa crew after Polikas leaves, and that's Captain Fuck, Carl Franzoni. He's strangely enough, Franzoni's from Cincinnati. He was born in the same hospital as Charles Manson from Cincinnati. So I think it's 3 weeks apart. And then 4 years earlier, Doris Day was born in that same hospital in Cincinnati, and her son Terry Melcher plays heavily into the Manson situation. Right? He's the folks that was renting out that home there before Tate and Polanski.
Yeah, and Beausoleil's up to his eyes in all this, so
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But how weird is that a baby would be playing Lucifer Rising, be playing Satan and Lucifer Rising, and then be replaced by Bobby Beausoleil, the full-blown adult and boyfriend of Anger, ostensibly.
So strange. I mean, wouldn't you love to be like this time frame in America is just absolutely fascinating. If we could be a fly on the wall like for a week. Whoa. I think you'd be scared. I think I'd be scared.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Terrifying.
So it's just very interesting that. So one other fun fact here about Mr. Vito Polikas here, Heidi, is, and I think I learned this from Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, was he's a Rothschild or was married to a Rothschild.
Oh, ooh, I didn't know that one.
Yeah,
I just went down a weird
or
Kenneth Anger thing once because I did a show with somebody and I was like trying to prep, and I was like, this is disgusting, but.
With Kenneth Anger?
Yeah, we did an Anger episode, and it was I was just trying to learn, and I didn't know all this stuff that connected, like weirdly enough.
Yeah, he's a sick son of a bitch.
So bad.
Well, you know where he'd hang out in recent years before he died. He'd frequently be seen. I never seen him there, but he'd frequently be seen at the reportedly at least at the Manly P. Hall Center there in Hollywood.
Gosh. Are you serious? But also, I want to say shout out Amy Lane. She's the one that did that episode. So she's great. I like to give credit where credit is due.
So not only through the Phillips and other processing angles is there connections from the Hodel Mayan temple home to, from the, the 30s and the 40s in Hollywood, essentially into the 50s, right? To the later 60s and 70s, into the 80s, Hollywood through the, again, through the Phillips and whatnot. Again, it seems like there's more to that since apparently Cocaine Bob resided in this home during that period for a period of time. So that's
it's all
more to follow on that. I'm sure I just learned that the other day, so that was brand new information for me.
That's all but one big ring. Like, I mean, literally,
for decades, right?
Wow.
And again, Jack Nicholson was very much fatty, right? Yeah, Jack Nicholson was very much a part of that group because again, his mentor was John Huston.
Right. Dang.
So it's I can envision all those guys hanging out in that home together. You know what I mean? Doing who knows what they're doing. I just mean,
yeah, improper sigil magic, creating all kinds of demons on Earth. Right? Don't talk to him, JJ.
Are you all familiar with the legend of Fatty Arbuckle?
I do not know this.
Nick?
No.
Nope. So this is an old school Hollywood rape case. This is the 1920s, I think. Yeah, 1921, 22. This is apparently a sex magic ritual in the 1920s in Hollywood where involved this actress named Virginia Rapé. So it's Virginia is common spelling, and then rape, but with 2 P's, Rapé.
Yeah, that's weird.
Right? She was the Rapé victim in the matter, right? Roscoe Conkling, Fatty Arbuckle, was a American silent film actor, director, and screenwriter. Blah 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 blah. He was also mentored Charlie Chaplin, Monty Banks, and Bob Hope. Some dark stuff around that guy, right?
Charlie Chaplin, Mormon murder.
Right.
You know that?
Arbuckle
Yeah.
was one of the most popular silent stars of the 1910s and was one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood, signing a contract in 1920 with Paramount Pictures for $1 million.
Wow. Back then.
And then he raped this lady. So apparently this was a ritual, and there's a lot of stories about this incident, but as Wikipedia, the source of all information on the interwebs, will tell us, Arbuckle was the defendant in 3 widely publicized trials between November 21st and November 1921 and April 1922 for the rape and manslaughter of actress Virginia Rapé. Rapé had fallen ill at a party hosted by Arbuckle at San Francisco's St. Francis Hotel in September of 21 and died 4 days later. Well, that's one way to say it. Supposedly, it was pretty gruesome and ritualistic. So that's an old school Hollywood one.
Yeah.
Right. So that was before the mine stuff we were just talking about. That's even before that, right?
Wow. Any royal connections there or Cincinnati connects on old Fatty?
That's a great question, right? He seems like he comes from that heritage, right?
Yeah, he looks a little inbred or something. No offense.
With a name like Conkling.
I'm just saying.
I'll have to get back to you on that. It is interesting though, because another famous Hollywood star of his era is certainly got some Cincinnati heritage, and that's the cowboy Tom Mix. You familiar with him?
No.
He was John Wayne's mentor in Hollywood, and he was like the first cowboy in Hollywood. The guy who taught him to be a cowboy on screen was Wyatt Earp.
Oh.
Yeah. So Tom Mix is of Connecticut heritage, and the traditional blue blood society heritage you find up there with those folks. I'm sure there's more, but I'll look back on this Arbuckle guy because it's been many years since I've looked at that case, but it was very bizarre. And those trials were very highly publicized.
Man.
That's the one when you first started saying old Hollywood rapes. I was like, is that one Virginia Rapé? Because isn't it weird that the victim in there is named Virgin Rape? Virginia Rapé?
There's no way.
Right?
That was
Virgin Rape, Virginia Rapé.
What if that was a humiliation ritual, just like old Johnny D and his little poo queen? Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Is the name changed for the purposes of the ritual? Is it told to the public for the purpose of the ritual? Is this seems to be something too, or is that whoever pulls the strings in this universe, are they a sick son of a bitch, and you're just going to have some rape victim in a ritual sacrifice named Virginia Rapé?
That's bad. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, virgin rape. I mean, that's ridiculous, right?
Virgin rape by Fatty. That's
by Fatty Arbuckle.
I'm just saying.
The name Fatty Arbuckle sounds made up. Right?
Oh my gosh. It doesn't, none of it sounds real. Like if somebody told you that on the street and you're just like, hey, I got this conspiracy for you, wouldn't you just be like, okay, right.
Well, that's true. I first off though, ma'am, I would not stop walking if someone approached me on the street like that. However, if Nick was approached by a person like that wearing a dress, looking like a linebacker riding a scooter, he'd stop listening to that conspiracy theory.
He's like, you said what?
You're number 2.
Oh my God.
I was going to quick answer. I did not know where I was going to have to go to a calendar or whatever the fuck he was pulling out of his pocket. I was like, oh God.
Oh, that's too funny.
Sometimes like when I see names like Fatty Arbuckle and Virginia Rapé, I'm like, oh, someone broke the simulation. You know what I mean? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah. And if they didn't, they need to that day.
Someone definitely broke the simulation with that transgendered linebacker hanging out in front of Comet Pizza. That's a glitch if I've ever seen one, wherever that thing came from.
Yeah.
My husband also likes to speak to the people that are clearly broken. When we were in California.
Oh no.
I know he pulled off on the exit to go to the bathroom in a wrong part of town. And he's like, what did that lady say to you? She was all confrontational with me. And I said, I don't know. I didn't talk to her. I just kept walking. Why did you talk to her? He's like,
I mean, it's a roll of the dice. Like, it's a roll of the dice.
Yeah. Just keep walking. Head down, walk by. Yes, good advice.
So looking further into this Elvis situation, real quick, going back to this, in the Elvis and the Manson stuff, there was actually a cartoon made, a whole series, the Elvis, Agent Elvis. So it even speaks of it being like he's a secret agent. It's made by Priscilla Presley. It's got a number. It's on Netflix. But in one of the episodes, they literally go kill the Manson family. That Well, I'll play us a brief preview of that here. Please stand by.
I'd say if I wanted to hang out with a bunch of shitbag hippies, I'd return Dennis Hopper's phone call.
So that's interesting. So Matthew McConaughey is apparently voicing Elvis there. And in this scene, he mentions Dennis Hopper. Again, Hopper was deeply related into this whole process movement there too, as well. He marries Michelle Phillips briefly there, from the Mamas and the Papas. And again, Nicholson, he's part of that whole crew of actors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God damn it. I'm not so much angry as I am disappointed. I blame myself. He goes down, man.
Hey, you owe me a new badge, dickhead.
I thought that part was great because he's, like I said, he's a badge collector. So he's at least got some humor to it.
Exactly.
Right.
That's wild.
Oh, Daddy, is anything broken?
Did y'all catch that? She immediately went for the groin. She's like, she grab some meat.
Okay, some of those seem awfully big to keep in your pants.
There's Priscilla. I'm not sure who the chimp is. So they go on to murk the entire Manson family. I don't know if it's historically accurate, but it is comical.
It is
weird
definitely
too, right?
comical. Yeah, that's weird. Especially that she helped make it. What?
Yeah, she's part of it. She's part of the production. Yeah, I think she even voices herself in there. That was her bringing out the switchblade there. I don't know. It was kind of the last thing I expected to find even made. I mean, I don't have Netflix, but I completely missed this being even produced. And when I discovered, after I looked into it after the Occult Elvis show with Miguel Connor there, I was like, what in the world? This is wild.
Yeah, that's like,
the series follows the exploits. Oh, go ahead.
Random. Oh, it's random. It's weird.
Super random, right? I was like, what in the world? And then when I found that episode, like, this is super wild. The series follows the exploits of a fictionalized version. Thank you for pointing that out, Wikipedia, of American rock and roll legend Elvis Presley, voiced by Matthew McConaughey, who moonlights as a spy for the United States government. I don't think that's all that, inaccurate, right?
Well, the stories can be fictional.
Right. But right. Obviously, I'm saying the fact that he was an undercover spy for the U.S. government, right?
It's true. It's the stories, it is fiction.
Oh, so she looks like Priscilla Presley created it. Looks like Caitlin Olsen is the voice of CC Ryder. I'm not sure who that is. Johnny Knoxville.
Oh,
the
boy.
SpongeBob guy, Tom Kenny. Yeah, there we go. Priscilla Presley herself. Okay, so maybe that wasn't Priscilla Presley we saw in the clip. That was CC Ryder, voiced by Caitlin Olsen from It's Always Sunny. Sweet D. That was Fred Armisen as Charles Manson. Weird.
Very strange. Like, super random and weird. Like, what are they doing with that? Especially a cartoon.
Right.
And cartoons aren't cheap. They're not cheap to produce.
Seem to be a pretty good, pretty high dollar production. Looks like, right? Some cast members. McConaughey can't be cheap.
Yeah.
Unless he's in it for a reason. Unless he was
that's
cheap
a good
for a
point.
reason. Mm-hmm.
That's a good point because I don't know if he's got any kind of Scientology connections or roots, but I do find it interesting that this hitman that sits at the epicenter of hired professional assassins between the mob or these cult networks, Charles Harrelson, Woody Harrelson's dad, who's also Matthew McConaughey's dad. So they have the same dad. Yeah,
I did not know that.
Oh, you weren't familiar with that? Oh yeah,
No.
even McConaughey's mom's like, yeah, I've known it. I've always known that. So I wonder how long have they been this been known between them, right, behind the scenes, their own personal lives, right?
That's got to be weird for them. And why is it always like that with the kids too? Like even like Emilio Estevez and Charlie Sheen, like they don't publicize that. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's weird. They do that all over Hollywood.
Yeah, they just announced this one like publicly maybe a year and a half or so ago, maybe a year ago. That
Wow.
McConaughey and Harrelson started talking about this, but I read or watched an interview with McConaughey's mother, and she verified it. I was like, all right, well, that's interesting. So this is
You're like,
supposed to be. This is McConaughey's older brother. He has the same dad as well, apparently, I believe, and that
oh, he
is
looks
Charles Harrelson.
just like Woody Harrelson.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So like even McConaughey's older brother, Rooster McConaughey's his name. He apparently their younger brother has a different dad, but him and his older brother have the same dad, and that's supposedly Charles
Wow.
Harrelson. Yeah.
Wow, he looks just like him. They had to say something. People were going to say something.
Right. I think he looks more like Woody than Woody's full brother does.
Yeah, he does. Sometimes that'll happen too. With I have a bunch of half siblings and whatnot, and my brother, he looks more like me than his full sister, and I'm only half. Weird.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
These Hollywood people, they're all screwing everybody at these damn seances and whatnot, just like Jackie.
Right.
And yeah, it's all weird.
Yeah, I'd say that he looks more like a Harrelson than he does McConaughey, this Rooster fellow.
Holy crap. That's not, oh, wow. Yeah. That's wild.
But again, they have the same dad, so they all do. So, there's going to be some similarities.
I think it's just whoever lands on the person that's married, like you get to raise it because they do all this weird sex magic. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. You take the kid home. She's your wife.
Yeah. I mean, this dude's a hitman, for years. Charles Harrelson, I think, was the only dude to ever murk a sitting federal judge. I mean, that's ballsy, but he was, I think at the time he was doing that for the Chakra brothers, Jimmy Chakra and brother down there. These Mexican drug cartel fellas out, running their stuff up through Texas across the border, and those fellas were running coke in the Iran-Contra. So I'd like to know where all these epicenters really meet. Quite honestly,
we'll never know because they're running the product of the U.S. government.
Exactly. I don't think Charles Harrelson was a JFK assassin. I think he's just telling tales, but he's clearly an assassin.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's wild.
You familiar with that the murder I'm talking about of the sitting judge?
Or no? Oh no, sorry. I thought you were talking about JFK. No, not the judge.
No, I can't think of his name. It was the guy Charles Harrelson's. He died in prison. John Wood.
Oh.
Yeah, he was the district court judge down there in Texas. Again, this is all, the drug lords were under charges on stuff. This guy was the judge, I believe, is how it went down. But it was quite a shot. As a trained sniper myself, I will say this was quite a shot because he did it. I believe he did it in a suburban area, and from a distance. And again, you're dealing with a lot of factors there, that you really can't plan for. So that's what I'm saying. It's not only was it a good distance, but I'm saying when you're shooting in an environment like that, there's a lot of things you can't account for. So
right,
quite a shot.
Walk out, yeah, anytime.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many things when you're dealing in a busy area like that, right? And you want to go undetected and everything else like that, right? So
I'm gonna have you come back on with all this Manson family business. This is great.
Yeah, I'm happy to, for sure.
Yeah, this is anything with that era is so fascinating because it was just all out there and they didn't really care. It was like seance at her house on Saturday,
It was the thing to do, right?
Yeah,
especially in Southern California.
So weird.
Well, that's actually what I was talking about the other night with the epicenter of Marvel and DC Comics here this past Wednesday on Operation GCD Live is L. Ron Hubbard's literary agent and the leader of the science fiction club. That's, this dude, Forey Ackerman, he was the literary agent for basically every sci-fi writer, and you can think of him, the last 100 years in America, especially that era, at least 100, nearly 100 years ago now, but is when he started being a literary agent. But he died just about 15 or 20 years ago, and he was a major figure in Hollywood the entire time, and especially sci-fi writing. And it seems to me that there's a lot to be said about the epicenter of these activities with a lot of these cults and these ideas around those things right there.
And that's just the ones on the surface. Who even knows? So weird.
Right. Right.
And how
But
many
one
of
of the
them
things-
are government operations?
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say next. One of the things that Ackerman says is they were all at Southern California. This is a 1997 interview. He's in his 80s. He's like, he's like, it's Southern California. We're all into the cult scene. We're all just, everyone was doing different cult things. And, it's kind of the way he explained it very nonchalantly like that. Right.
Like, it's fine. Meh. That's weird. If people weren't dying and stuff, it would be fine. I don't have any problem with people doing people stuff. Don't hurt other people or animals. Sure. But this is not that. Obviously, clearly people are dying.
Yeah, I think it's obvious that some folks take it to some extremes, but it's kind of like you were saying though, like, it's Tuesday. We're going to do a ritual over here on Tuesdays,
So weird. Yeah, no. And it's I don't think we'll ever know the truth. Like they always like the JFK file thing. They released this whole big part, but then they didn't release RFK and they didn't release all these other pieces of this other guy that's critical with the whole alien thing. I'm like, okay, you guys are just never going to be truthful. Let's get real.
Right. They're just playing games, right?
It's annoying. And I knew it was going to be annoying because of Roy Cohn, and the current president isn't going to talk too much about that when he used to be, over the branch off of the Mary Carter Paint Company, Resorts International for a minute.
Right.
Donald Trump owned it for a hot second, and you're going, wait a minute, what the hell's happening over here?
No, that's a good point, and it's funny. I found more pictures of old Donnie Boyd going to Roy Cohn's birthday parties in subsequent years to 78 when his first appearance there at Roy's 52nd at Studio 54.
Oh man. And they're the worst. He looks like he's having the worst ever time. He's always got this scowl on his face as far as Cohn. I'm talking about Cohn.
Oh, okay.
Dude, it's your birthday, smile. Jeez.
Right. Well, my point, I was a little shocked to find him going back because if I'm gonna go to a party, especially if you're supposedly a teetotaler like old Donald Trump is there, El Presidente. He again, I'm not the vice president, so I have no associations with him. But if you're gonna dress the man up like a little Roman boy toy on a leash type of deal, right? You wonder why he's going back for the next year's party.
Right, exactly. I'm like, okay, this whole thing is completely connected 110%. And when you're looking at it all, for a fact, he can't release it all. It makes absolutely 0.00 sense to screw your own self over, especially when you own the Atlantis Hotel for a moment. Please do tell me about the aliens, Mr. President.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. And not only that, like when you say he got Resorts International underneath his Trump network umbrella, what you're really saying there, right, though, Heidi, is that he inherited a bunch of blackmail operations, right?
Absolutely.
From Meyer Lansky,
in the
right?
mob. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, they're not playing for fun. This is big boy toys, and they act like Donald's part was nothing. And I'm like, wait a minute, he was going bankrupt at that time. Oh, just like the Mormon Church was right before Watergate. And then what happens? They do this thing, the Mullen Company for Bob Bennett, and boom, fixes the church. Boom, fixes Trump's problem.
Right.
Like, come on. That's stupid. Like anybody that doesn't catch that, I'm just like, no, that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I mean, it does make sense, but it doesn't make sense that the dots wouldn't connect clearly.
Well, yeah, there's obviously, I think what I was tracking, what you're saying is there's something more going on there than what we're being told, and it's pretty obvious.
Yeah,
we can take some stabs and some suggestions of what that might be, but some educated guesses at that. But yeah, it's we're left in the dark of it clearly, right?
Well, and we can follow the little red dots, but when people start turning up dead in bathtubs, that's at 37 because they already had a bad heart. Okay.
Are we talking about Castleario?
I'm talking about Onassis's daughter, and I'm like, look at this connection here. She first
got Castleario.
She did, and people were just like, this is what they say. Oh, diet pills, huh? And I'm like,
typical.
In the tub? No, sir, no. Mm-mm. And my brain's completely like saturated in that right now, but there's so many things that always connect every single time. And Starvos, I think is how you say his name. That was his like competitor. They were kind of against each other, you know. And that
Who's
one
this,
even gets worse.
Stavros?
Yes, Stavros. He's a Greek
I don't know him.
family, and that was his
Is he a
brother-in-law.
stand-up? Is he a stand-up comedian?
No, he's a Greek shipping guy.
There's some Greek stand-up comedian by that name, I think.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like fascinating to me that they end up in families. Like the top guy that was the Greek shipping like boss guy, they marry his daughters, and then both of them get a daughter, and like they hate each other. I'm like, wait a minute, why are y'all all in the family? What the hell? I mean,
Right.
but then you start thinking about it, right? Like who's the one person that can't testify against you in a court of law? Your
There you
freaking
go.
wife. Oh my
Is this
God.
the Stavros you're talking about?
No, he was a handsome fellow, sort of.
This
But
is
they
the
both
comedian I
had
was
short
referring
man
to.
syndrome.
Oh yeah. No, that's definitely a Greek fella.
I think it's Nikaros Starvos or something like that. It's the other way.
Yep.
Yep, there he is. And so it's interesting.
Oh, so he was another shipping tycoon, huh?
Yep. And they both married the daughters of another shipping tycoon. Isn't that weird?
Interesting.
Like they definitely keep it in the family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird. I'll be talking
I've never
about
heard
him
this guy.
too.
As much as I've heard Onassis' name, I don't think I've ever heard this fella's name.
This guy, his wives, that's all I'm going to say. We don't want to ruin it, but I'm telling you guys what, it gets crazy. Crazy. And they hate each other. They have to go to Christmas together. Could you imagine? They're like, they marry sisters. So like they have to see each other sometimes. And Onassis is quoted as saying, we go to war, but we're nice. We're nice for the ladies. So
Well, so the fella Blowfield from James Bond and later Dr. Evil from Austin Powers, right? He's supposed to be Onassis, right?
Yeah. In that. Yeah.
Well,
and he's only
well, look at his middle name.
Yeah. Oh.
So maybe he's an amalgamation of both of those guys, right?
Well, and so his progeny or whatever, his son's son, I believe, ends up dating Paris Hilton.
Come on.
I'm serious.
The Hiltons are they got some.
I know about them Hiltons. Believe it.
Yeah.
Put in Paris Hilton.
Well, I think the NFL made the. Oh, go ahead.
Just put in Paris Hilton and Stavros, and you'll see he was a handsome kid. Like, I mean, he still is. He's still alive.
Right.
He just
I
didn't
think they
marry
made her. I think they made her uncle sell his NFL team because he was had too much mob stuff going on.
Oh, it doesn't surprise.
He was the owner of the Chargers at one point in time.
Yep. It's wild to me when you see how it gets handed down, and then they're like, no, we're not in the mob.
Yeah. So I mean, we're talking two mob families here, then, right? The Hiltons and the Stavroses, or whatever. What's this fellow's name?
You know what this is? This is about you can't. Somebody said he would have been disinherited, which is true if he married her. But here's why. Think about it. You can't have that big of a families come together. No way.
Right.
No way.
That's what I was suggesting. Yeah, for sure.
And babies can't be made like that. Like you make a baby with them two, then the grandpas can't kill them. They can't have them waxed.
Yep.
So yeah.
Well, not only that, you find yourself in a Dodi Fayed Princess Di situation, right? Supposedly
Right.
she was pregnant with his kids, and that's the Fayeds. That's a powerful bunch.
And I mean, there's always a Mormon somewhere lingering in the weird background. I'm like, why the hell are you here? Where the hell did you come from? Why are you here? But yeah, it's always weird. Who knows? Strange, but fascinating. When I won't ruin it, but that grandpa of his, oh my gosh, straight up killer, and I mean it.
Yeah. We'll have to maybe touch on that again in a future episode here because I have to.
It'll be in the
Onassis
one. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was going to say maybe we'll have to do an occult esoteric review of James Bond sometime because the first James Bond you got Blowfield, right? You got Blowfield in Casino Royale. I think you get Blowfield, who seems to be Onassis and the Stavros fella, combined as far as the character basis.
Right.
And you got Le Chiffre, and Le Chiffre is based on Crowley.
Oh, I didn't know that. I
Yeah,
feel so
according to
bad
Ian-
for her.
Ian
She looked like
Fleming.
her dad. Her mom was quite attractive, but her dad, I don't know. Definitely his kid. I
Yeah,
felt bad for her.
yeah.
There's,
I mean,
there's
being
only
being born in
one
families that
left.
way, it's almost like a curse, isn't it?
Oh, everyone's dead but one, her daughter. Everyone's dead. You
Right.
tell me that's a coincidence. That's no coincidence. He got too big, and she stays out
Right.
of the limelight. You don't hear about that girl. No way. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So there you go.
Crazy.
This is the
Yep.
main
Oh
villain.
yeah,
we've
they're
seen
talking
in Casino
about
Royale.
they're talking about Paris Hilton being at Provo Canyon School, and that's true. And a mental institution here.
No.
Yeah, they locked Paris up here and they treated her dirty. Yeah, that's
The
real.
Mormons did, huh? I didn't know that.
I don't know about the Mormons, but they chucked her ass in here, probably to
There's
get
no
her
way-
away from him.
There's no way the Mormons aren't running a mental institution in the state of Utah, right?
Oh,
I mean, that's got to
for
be.
sure, that's true. I
Right.
work at one for sure. That's real.
Well, yes,
That's like real
this guy
life,
was
though.
Le Chiffre was the guy that was the Bonds playing against in the big poker tournament in Casino Royale, and he's based upon Fleming stated he was based upon Crowley. They served together there in MI6.
Wow, that's wild.
Back
Yeah,
to
we
this,
should do
all the
that.
spook stuff, right? Spooks and spies. You
100%.
got Ian Fleming as well, right? The whole James Bond
Well,
series.
I think all of Utah is spooks and spies half the time.
I don't think you're wrong, especially with the NSA center y'all have out there.
Oh, let's see, we have a Air Force base, we have the IRS, we have the NSA, we have the FBI newly built in Farmington, and we have, I don't know if the CIA, but then we have that big vault where they keep all the things that the Mormons, the Mormon vault. I can't remember right now, but all of that's within like 45 minutes of me. That's why people
Mhm.
are always like, and if I ever am not here on this universe, y'all better look into it.
You didn't mention this place though. Heidi, you familiar with this one?
Is this the one where they keep? Yeah, the cybersecurity. Yep.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's a
this is
huge
where
facility.
Yeah.
all of the water just to cool down the computers here is bananas. Like they're always saying we have a drought, but it evaporates as soon as they have to run it through for these computers to keep the mainframe cool enough to store all this data. Drat my ass. Just saying.
Right. Like, these buildings are huge. Look at these data centers.
Yep, the NSA, yeah. That's wild.
Yeah. I think these are some of the deals the Mormons struck years ago when they decided to come back into America.
I think that plus the presidential relationships they made with George A. Smith. George A. Smith is the key to, like, at least the societies, like the hidden societies, becoming more and more integral into the Mormon church. He was the first one to like join the Rotary Club and these other things that don't really make a lot of sense. I mean, of course, Skull and Bones and all that stuff is already in there at that point. But like this other stuff, the Rotary Club, that's typically Catholic, it's really not like a Mormon-y thing to be,
Right.
but yet there they are. And there's lots of quotes, especially from Spencer W. Kimball, saying he's going to miss the Rotary luncheon. I think Justin's brought this up before, and different stuff like in his journals. And so that's how we know. But George A. Smith was photographed at a Rotarian Club thing and mentioning, that he was so excited, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, this doesn't really align with the Mormon. Like, this is drinking and coffee and tea, like all these things, like it's not aligning. It doesn't make sense. But yet things really start to look up for the Mormons about then with integrating
Right.
into the government. And then it fully takes off with Watergate. And I hate to say it because Bob Bennett, everybody says he's so nice and that's great, but he did confirmed worked for the CIA and was, running a shill of a corporation with the Mullen Company. And then
Right.
all of a sudden, the finances of the Mormons are fixed after he takes the fall. I'm sorry. Like, I think he helped them.
Oh, for
saved some
sure. And
guy.
this is what I'm saying as far as, and I'm very familiar with that story. Is my mother was a friend and fellow ward member with Bob Bennett there in DC at that time. I would argue that they may have dated from the way I've heard
Oh.
those stories. They were definitely friends though. They were the same age,
Yeah.
roughly the same age. You know how the Mormons are. They're always trying to link up the young single adults in each ward, right? So I don't think it was more of a dating thing. It was more of one of those type of things, right?
Right.
But
You see it, yeah.
these deals you're talking about though with Bennett and the Mullen Agency, I think this is what I'm saying. I think that they were signed up for these spooky deals back there in the 1894. What was it when they came back in the Union?
Right. It's too coincidental. I mean, I think at some point, especially like you said, when they came back into the Union, the funniest thing
Right.
ever was that they sent, everybody was to send a block to the George Washington monument. And so Utah hadn't switched its name to Utah yet. And instead it was called Deseret. And their block said
Sure.
Deseret, and it has the all-seeing eye on it. It's hysterical. And I'm like, this is
Pull that
so
up here.
funny. Yeah, it's so funny. And most people don't know, but like, hello, like I'm pretty sure you can see visually what the Mormons are all about, the brotherhood, clearly.
Sure.
Yeah, they'll do anything for the brotherhood. Much like some podcasts. Oh no, just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm teasing.
That Deseret news site, believe it or not, I mean, I guess kind of like the whole thing with the Mormons, I guess their whole family tree thing. It actually works great if you want to use it kind of like against them. Like I found so much information on them when I was covering Skinwalker Ranch on just certain Mormons because of them popping up in Deseret News.
Yep.
That's how I found out how many people were actually Mormon, because they were popping up in that.
Yeah, it's I think there was one with the eye, but maybe it's that.
Is that a beehive?
Yeah.
But I thought the eye was over the top, but maybe not.
No, it's there. You're right.
Oh,
You just
is
can't
it?
see
Okay.
it. Yeah, I mean,
I
zoom in
can't,
for you.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
like-
holy shit! Yes, you can.
There it is,
Okay,
right
there
there.
it is. I was like, I swear it was there. Okay, good. I was like, brain, don't start failing me now. There we go.
Now I was fascinated by the beehive there.
Oh, the beehive.
They got to include that, right? So it's on a stool. What are we looking at here, Nick, with the stool situation?
The horns too, dude. The horns. Did you see those horns?
The horns?
That
Where
horn.
he's- oh, on the
horn.
sides. Okay, right here.
You know what's interesting with that beehive formation? The way it's done, that looks just like the
It's
floor
unique,
of
right?
the Twin Peaks inside the lodge.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
you
the way
know
the
that
walls go.
this type of hive, do you know this type of hive is actually really not a good hive for the bees, that actually they die after the honey is harnessed from these ones. This is not a great sharing of like prosperousness, like what they try to say. No, they provide what they need to provide and then they die with this type of
Well, that's
hive.
what I was wondering here, because this looks like a unique beehive. This is not a normal beehive, right?
Mm-mm.
I mean, first of all, it's sitting on a stool with some leaves underneath.
I'm sure that has something to do with it, the four legs. And all.
100. And the trumpets and all of it. I haven't counted how many, but
So this
sure.
is essentially the first act of Brigham Young, right? Because this was 1853. One of his
Mhm.
first acts, right?
Yep, to play ball. Yep.
Just
Yeah.
looks so.
And
So many.
but I'm surprised they didn't change their name yet on there, but maybe they already had the stone done, right?
Right.
He's got a handshake.
It should
Well,
be.
I was going to say, do they still call themselves Deseret internally to the mothership? You know what I mean? Kind of like
No.
no.
The only things that Deseret is now, they do name like their canned goods and stuff like that on those, or anything produced by the church, like food wise, has Deseret on it when it's internal. But not that I know, they never say that now. But yeah,
Go back. Cut out there for a second. Sorry about that. Yeah. So you see this number here, Nick? 220. It's at the 220-foot level of the obelisk. Any significance you think to that?
22 maybe. Yeah, that is interesting to think about.
Yeah.
It's weird. Look at those trumpets too. The trumpets symbolize. I think there'll be a certain number of them. I'd have to look at it better, but I'm sure there's some significance there that that isn't just on the outward. There's a lot of detail in this photo.
Yeah, so I see a number of trumpets here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there's really, they kind of blend in with the leaves at some point too, right?
Yeah, 7. I see
5,
7, 8, maybe.
and then some maybe over here that were destroyed. What happened here? Weathering.
All right. I don't know. That's so weird. It's such a weird thing for them
Yeah.
to send. Like everybody else's was like very, patriotic and stuff, and they sent this. So I'm sure they were kind of. Could you imagine the guy that unboxes it? Freaking Mormons. Friggin'
What-
Mormons.
It kind of begs the question: is why did they send this in 1853? They're at war with the U.S. government.
Right? Well, are they though? Because they helped finish the freaking the railroad and everything. Oh, we're at war with you, but let us help you.
Well, I would argue these are the actions of a secret society, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know that. I mean, it's more than Freemasonry. People always that's low hanging fruit,
Yeah,
know
for sure.
It's way further.
No, I totally agree. What are your thoughts, Nick, on the Mormons and their secret activities in the 1850s there? They went to Mexico, and now they're doing American stuff still.
Something up with the Mexicans. Cultists love going to Mexico too, huh?
Right.
Somebody just commented about Romney. That's all about Mexico there.
Oh yeah. All those Mormons. I still think something's up with that with the Mormons down there in Mexico. I think they're up to some weird shit. I did watch a special. I couldn't remember where I watched it on, where they were covering Mitt Romney and the cartel that's around near them.
Yeah.
Vice. That they're supposedly at war with. I don't know if it was Vice, but they did say the interesting thing is though
The
is
LeBarons too.
there's kids, a lot of kids in the cartel areas disappear. And I'm wondering, like, is the cartel possibly getting the guns from the Mormons and they're taking their kids as payment?
Oof.
Yeah. Well, we already seen some of those LeBaron kids get murked that were NXIVM nannies. So there's something weird going on there, right?
100%. Definitely. I mean, every time you see the LeBarons show up, it's weird. And they have connects clear up to Hollywood. Speaking of Hollywood, because that Christine from Sister Wives, she's a LeBaron. Her grandpa was LeBaron. I think she's direct.
Yeah, they're just as powerful within the mothership, if not more, than the Romneys.
Oh, for sure. They just stay underneath unless they get pissed off and start killing everybody.
Yeah,
they just stay
the Jeffs,
hidden.
the Romneys, they get all the attention, right?
I know. Yeah, that's for sure. Well, the Jeffs have been definitely brought down 20 levels because they had to go build the bed that we knew should have been the altar in the first place. Stupid DNA.
What? It makes me wonder what goes on with some of these behind the scenes stuff, especially with these fundamentalist Mormon cults. Like, what really is the precipitating event that really screwed Warren Jeffs over, for example? You know what I mean? What caused them to really go in there and arrest him finally?
Texas. Well, the 12-year-old. But I mean, he had two babies with two 12-year-olds, and he was pissing off everybody. So my brother-in-law.
Yeah, but that wasn't new though, right?
No, but he was taking out enough men. So my brother-in-law is Warren Jeff's nephew. I think I've told you guys that before, but anyway, they went there. They went to Texas and they were helping build, and he was giving them impossible tasks like build the sewer system uphill. Well, sorry, that's not going to work. But they were doing this to a lot of people, and so they were doing it to take their wives. And not so much him. He only had 2 wives, but by the time he got home, he just said he was not being disrespectful. He's the nicest guy ever. He was like, it's not going to work, And so by the time he got home, they said, you have to go. You argued with the prophet. And remember, this is his uncle on 2 sides, through mom and dad. And so by the time he got home, his wives were gone, his kids were gone, everything was gone. He never saw him again for like 8 years. But they proceeded further to take out his dad, and his dad had a lot of wives. I think 13, maybe. I can't remember specifically, but a lot of kids, and then they can take them because you didn't do the right thing or you didn't whatever.
Sure.
They can, and so people started talking more. This leads to people getting upset is the situation, saying like, yeah, no, I mean, you can't just keep taking all our wives and kids and kicking us out. And still, they were still working and giving all the homage and money and everything. And yeah, it was just super upsetting,
Sure.
to so the more they did that, the more people were like gonna talk. I think that was part of the undoing is they just got greedy.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
We got a
Yeah.
question here. Who are the LeBarons? They're, in my opinion, they're kind of the OG fundamentalists, right? Everyone else
Oh yeah.
kind of broke off from them, right? The Romneys, the Jeffs, everybody, right?
Yeah.
And they
Yep,
murdered each
and
other, did
they
they
are
not? The
crazy.
LeBarons, the original
Yeah.
LeBaron?
Oh, they did it
Yeah.
again, just barely in like what was it, 2017 or 2016? They
Right,
had that
but
big
they're,
shootout. Yeah.
but their
They don't
initial
care.
separation within the family was as a result of a murder between what, two brothers?
Oh yeah. Only can be one mighty and strong. You better believe.
Exactly. They
Mhm.
went all Highlander on each other.
Yeah, they did. In the middle of the night, shooting up people's wives and kids, man. Like just
Yeah.
going bananas. Yeah. It's a crazy story. And they give
This is a
no
crazy
shit.
structure. Even the Mexican versions of these compounds, a couple hundred miles south of this one, they're the LeBarons and the Romney compounds down there. This is the Jeffs compound near literally in the middle of Texas. Like it's near just south of San Angelo.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, the actual geographic center of Texas is not far from here. So I was at Goodfellow Air Force Base the day this got raided.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so they came and briefed the FBI went and briefed Goodfellow. So I was there on a headquarters inspection of the unit, and the operations officer, when I got there that morning, he says, you picked a good day here to come for a base visit. And I was like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, sit down. He's like, we're about to watch some good stuff. He's turning on the TV and stuff. He's like, he's describing to me what's going on, before, what happened that morning, and the day before, I guess maybe the FBI came and briefed him and whatnot, as being the operations guy in charge of all the cops there in the base there. I think they used the base as a staging point, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think, and they kept going through. They couldn't get in the temple like immediately. I can't remember the story. I think they had to get somebody to help them. They were trying not to desecrate it.
They didn't have the right key, huh?
Apparently, not.
They're all about their keys.
That's for sure. But yeah, they found a lot of mess and birth records being messed with. Speaking of missing kids, yeah,
So
not good.
Apparently, the FBI started their raid up there at Goodfellow Air Force Base, and then traveled the 50 or so miles down to the YFZ Ranch in the middle of nowhere.
So wild.
Yeah, it just seems so odd because they've had so many problems with Scientology as far as not raiding their places. And again, you're not that far from the border, although the LeBarons and the Romneys are way over here. It's just south of El Paso, just south of Juarez, like right in this region right here. Mm-hmm. So they're not really close, but it is a similar compound.
Yep.
I don't know if they're going for the same aesthetics. I'm not sure what they're aiming for here. These are unique Mormon temples, though, are they not?
They don't look like the others for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely not. I mean, I granted their budget is probably different, but they also have a lot of laborers. I feel like they could have made them however. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah,
I don't think they
definitely
spend the expenses, right?
I don't think.
Not when it comes to building temples, or at least,
He said he was working like almost 20 hours a day, and they work for free. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, they're really just buying materials at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's all they were out. And clearly they had enough money for Warren to go have himself, fancy cars and, wearing red and gambling and prostitutes. And
I'm glad you mentioned that, because now I just remembered they had another compound in Arizona City, Arizona?
In Colorado City. Yes.
Colorado City, Arizona. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
which is right on the border, not far from the good folks over at Best Friends Animal Society, aka the Process Church in Kanab, Utah.
Oh, that's right. And they have another one in Haledale. So what they used to do is
Oh.
there's a cave with a tunnel in it. And Hilldale is in Utah, but Colorado City's in Arizona. So when the cops would come for them in whichever state they were in, they would just go through the cave system to the other state.
Oh,
Because
that's wise. That's sharp.
Mhm.
It's good thinking.
They're not dumb on a lot
Not
of
dummies.
things, I'll tell you. Yeah.
They might be inbred and look real ridiculous, but they're not dummies.
Right. Exactly. And let alone the Kingstons. That's another whole.
Well,
oh
they're
my
they're heavy
gosh.
up here too in Colorado City, right? The Kingstons, right? Look how close
But
it is to Kanab. Not even an hour's drive.
and I did another one with a guy. Oh, and it was one I'd never even heard of before. It was called, man, I should look into that again. Something Friends, something. And he's like right next to Colorado City, but they don't speak. It's like, nope, you don't
Oh.
marry, none of that. And
Yep.
but they're all same
Turf war.
polygamy sex. Yeah. Yep.
Got turf war going on. Got a Mormon turf
So
war.
weird. Yep.
So are you familiar with this fella? Margarito Batista. He's an actual Mexican national Mormon fundamentalist cult leader. His cult was down by Mexico City.
How weird.
Way further south. Way further south.
Makes you wonder, like, I mean, clearly they were setting up so many things, because like Strang went to Wisconsin and did it, and then we've got the Canada
Yep.
branch Kingstons, and these guys are in Mexico. Like they were setting up a huge like situation here. So
Well, then you got Joseph Smith III went to Independence, Missouri, right? And
Mhm.
I'm sorry, he went back
Yep.
to Kirtland, right? Or Independence
Kirtland,
first.
yeah.
One of the two.
I thought it was. I don't know for sure.
They
but-
they end up acquiring both properties at one point in time, but I'm not sure which one was first. Presumably, it was probably Kirtland. It was less heat than Independence.
right.
It was still legal to murder a Mormon in Missouri until like 1972. So
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
that's wild.
you can thank Joseph Smith for that one.
Yeah, the wives, you know.
Well, Mormon hunting.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but they really built some pretty large compounds down here in Mexico. Again, it's slightly different than what we're seeing there with the Jeffs compound. I'm trying to bring up a good picture here of the LeBaron and Romney activities down there in Mexico. But it's seemingly they don't spare many expenses in these compounds.
Mm-mm. Well,
That's
especially
not
not
a
the
temple.
locks.
That one's not a temple. Let me see if I can find the temple. That says that's the Stake Academy building. So that's probably an administrative building for the stake. Why would they have their own stake, Heidi? They live on one compound.
Well, files. No, just kidding.
You know what I mean, though? Like, why would they need a stake? The stake is the regional organization, right? That's you have numerous wards under the stake. So they have numerous wards on this one compound of the same family. Is that what you're telling me?
No, usually if they have a small enough area, they just do it at the church. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's weird, right? What else are they doing out of this steak building? down there?
That's my
But
guess.
it's not serving up delicious steaks.
Maybe it's very like the 70s parties, but less weird.
Yeah, I'm going to say more
weird.
I'm leaning towards more weird.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very seldom do things
exactly.
get less weird. They usually get real weird, more weird.
That's actually
So
quite
this is
weirder.
an,
No coke. Somehow, there's no coke, but somehow it's weirder.
Right.
I'm trying to find pictures of this. Oh yeah, right.
Huh.
Yeah. I'm trying to find pictures of the temple down there, and as I've seen it before on the Romney compound, it's kind of unique. But I stumbled across this picture from Smithsonian. Mormon guide in Llanos, Mexico. Mormon guide John Hatch. I'm assuming Orrin Hatch's kinfolk. Chats with a youngster at a 17th century Catholic church. What a weird image. What are we doing here, people? You know what I mean?
Right. And the kid looks kind of scared. Look at the body posture.
Super freaked out. I'd be creeped out too by that guy. Be quite honest.
For
with you.
sure.
Here's Mitten's cousin. I think he's one of those guys. You look at him, he's like, oh, that's a white fella. And then he starts talking. You're like, whoa, dude, you're like the most Mexican dude I've ever heard.
Hmm.
Really?
You ever heard of them talk?
Maybe, I don't know.
Oh, dude, he's as cholo sounding as it gets. You know, you're like, wait a second, dude, where is this? This is east side of LA. What are we doing here?
Wow.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go.
Oh,
This is the Romney temple. It's more like the traditional style temples, right?
looks like St. George.
Yeah,
Temple,
right.
sort
Kind
of.
of the ones you see there in southern Utah. They're the not
Mhm.
quite as elaborate as the mothership, but you know, they're fancy.
Wild. But the
Now,
things they do, it's not the regular things. The things that are hidden, I'm sure, are just bananas. Yeah.
Well, so it's interesting because now they're being forced to build all these temples, right? And because the IRS is like, hey, you can't sit on all that money, you got to spend it. But they're not building temples like this anymore. What is this? The Romney Temple? This is an official mothership website. Why would it be on the official mothership website? That's weird, right? Church of Jesus Christ Temples.org, right? This is an official mothership website, but yet they show the
Underneath
Mormon
it,
fundamentalists.
yeah, that's well. You know, the fundamentalists don't want anything to do with the mainstream people, but vice versa. I would say they're very prone to wanting to work together.
Interesting.
I'm sure for enough money you could make it work. You know, I heard that the Kingstons.
I think they all work.
I haven't verified, just so you guys know. But the Kingstons are extremely rich, and it's postulated that they are involved in the Maverick gas stations. And also I heard that they brought in a geneticist to actually help them not have damaged children, because they believe the old way that they only have babies with like uncles and brothers and cousins, and you know, because they say they have the divine right to rule, and that they're actual posterity of the royal bloodlines, you know, so Merovingian. Yeah.
Sure. Sure. This is so that Mexican Margarito Batista, he started the third convention fundamentalist breakaway movement in 1936, right? So this is after the polygamy stuff. So I'm not exactly sure what I have to get more into that, but maybe that's a good topic of conversation in the future. Is one I was hoping to have there with Riot, Codega's Codex of Curiosities, because he's the one who, in talking with him about a satanic vampire drug trafficking cult, you know, Nick and I were discussing with him there. Were you with us on that one, Heidi?
I wasn't. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, was that? I didn't think so. Yeah, it was. So it was. Yeah, Nick, go ahead. You probably has more details than I do on it. Was Magdalena Solis?
Yes. Yeah. Lisa was there because of the last name.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Wasn't that the one where it was? Yeah, that was a screwed up one where like her brother was kind of like technically pimping her out at first.
Oh,
I think like they started like kind of like some cult, but I don't know. Like, wasn't it? To me, I think it was like an operation, possibly.
Yeah, it was definitely an operation, right? She came in and seized up a drug network and like started being their vampire goddess, and that's the same thing Homeboy did at the Matamoros cult in Monterey, same Mexican state, almost the same time.
There was even things that we even kind of saw a little bit of like parallels between that and Alfonso Costanza, kind of in a sense. I think that when Julia,
yes, sir, that's the Matamoros one right there. There's a lot of correlations between the two, and it seems to be Costanza was being run by the Interpol chief for Mexico, who apparently right around these same times as these cults, the Matamoros, this vampire cult just south of there with Magdalena Solis. It seems like that Interpol dude gave up an American DEA agent undercover who was murdered up there by the LeBaron compound about 10 minutes away from it.
They don't play. They're straight up killers.
Yeah.
They kill kids like and women. They don't care. So yeah,
there's a lot to be said around that vampire cult, but it was Rye that sent me down that rabbit hole. I'm like, well, you know what? I don't really understand the rest of this Mormon cult stuff in Mexico.
Wow.
And then I was shocked to see a late movement in the 1930s of a Mexican national taking on a whole movement down by Mexico City. He would later be offed in traditional Mormon cult leader fashion, right? But that's a different story altogether. But yeah, Monterey is a hotbed. The is it Monterey? What's the where did that go down? Where did Matamoros go down? That's the province of Monterey or Mexican state of Monterey, maybe.
I don't remember.
Yeah, whatever I'm thinking of. Is it the city of Monterey? The city of Monterey. Okay. No, wait. Yeah, no, it's the state of Monterey. Okay. Yeah, that's where the Nexium compound was down there too.
Oh shoot.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
Mexican. It was like I have a map of it somewhere, and I was saving it for that conversation with Rod because I mapped out all the
know.
Mormon stuff. All so I'll save it for that. But yeah, we'll get into that as another time for
Hopefully he'll do it with us.
conversation. there,
Hopefully he'll
Heidi.
come on. Yeah. Yes, the Mormons
for sure.
worship. Some people worship Quetzalcoatl. When you're talking about this, the Quetzalcoatl thing's going to come into play. That's weird. I think they've tried to squash that
Don't they, like,
heavily.
Well, back
they think that's like basically Jesus, correct?
Well, one part of it, we were talking about how the Mormons worship Quetzalcoatl, JJ.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
I
and
do
all-
think there is
I
some
mean-
belief system there, right? There's something there, right? I'm not sure what it is, but there's something there.
Yeah, there was a whole thing about that. And then the church tried to shut that down real quick. But then when we're talking about Jesus from the Mormons, and I always do this with it because, they don't say that he was created by Holy Spirit and it was immaculate conception like we know. What do they say? People laugh and got pissed at me because I said no. He did it with Mary, but people don't like that. So I'll tell you guys how the prophets said it. That Jesus was created with passions just like any other man in the flesh. So there it is. I mean, there's
So what you're telling
tons
me
of
is
quotes.
you're telling me that Jesus is an ancient alien. Is what you're telling me.
I think he is. I think he's a Nephilim. Mhm.
Right.
For them, not our
Well, that's the
Jesus,
idea-
just their
right.
Jesus. Yeah.
That's the idea of Quetzalcoatl, though, right? This is some sort of kind of ancient alien character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nick,
And
you've done a lot of
mean,
work on this, right?
Not talking about Jesus.
I really
from
don't get the
Nazareth.
whole Quetzalcoatl. I don't really understand that whole Mormon connection too well.
Same thing.
Was it the Shriners? Was it the Shriners you all covered? The Order of
No, the Order of Quetzalcoatl is an inner order. Well, it's an inner order of the Shriners. Yeah.
What are they?
Yeah.
Who's Quetzalcoatl to them? Is he some sort of ancient alien cargo cult being?
Well, it's like
Overlord?
I guess basically that idea in the pyramid. They do go to the pyramid. They have the Feast of Fire ritual that they do every year that the Rothschilds actually fund.
Oh.
Uh,
Little Rothschild action, huh?
Oh, Mormon Wiki right
Who
there.
doesn't like that?
Yeah, like if people were to go on like the Feast of Fire, if they look it up like every year, it will show you who their sponsors are. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. You're paying for that to happen?
Oh boy.
Yeah, you see some like actual legit companies on there.
Huh. Doesn't surprise. Doesn't surprise. I think they know a good Nephilim when they see one, right?
Right. The yeah, I mean that's it fits right in line with their systems, right? So you were mentioning Skinwalker Ranch, right, Nick? Brandon Fugel.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yes, he's interesting.
What are your thoughts on him, Heidi? He loves this Mexico stuff, right?
He's
Brandon Fugel is very interesting. I
just-
follow him on socials, and I'll tell you
Yeah.
with what he posts, it's weird. But I will tell you guys this: since he's on Skinwalker Ranch, he'll shoot you if you go out there. P.S. Straight
yeah.
up.
Well, he won't
got-
shoot you, but that weird fella he's got there,
Right.
Cobra or whatever, has had a security wheel, right?
Yep, exactly. And they don't play.
So he loves Mexico. So before he bought Skinwalker Ranch, he used to do a Mormon tourism exploring Indiana Jones style trips down to Mexico to find the actual sites from the Book of Mormon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I didn't know he did that, but when we covered
Yeah.
the Skinwalker Ranch, I don't know how many episodes it was. At one point, I did say that I even found tours that were specifically for Mormons to go to that pyramid.
Yeah, well, that's
Mm,
he probably owned that company. That's him on the far left right there.
Yeah,
That's weird.
I had something's up with him in Hawaii too. He's buying up a ton of property.
Hawaii. You mean where the Mormons infiltrated during the time of Howard Hughes and took over the Polynesian Center, and then
There's
the
a weird-
Marriott's, opened up
I'm-
Blue Origin or Blue something. I can't remember, something Blue Hotel there. Yeah.
I'm currently so
Yeah.
frustrated, even more than I previously was with Brandon Fugel, as I went to go search for his former Mexican Mormon tourism company. The first hit I get is Brandon Fugel, Mormon Battalion UFO sighting, 1846. Get the fuck out of here. We got Mexican
Not that one.
Revolutionary Army War UFO sightings. Come on, Brandon Fugel. Get serious.
Oh my gosh.
Fields. It stopped the war.
Yeah, dude. It says a concise history of the Mormon Battalion in the Mexican War. So apparently the Mormons fought in the Mexican War. I didn't know that. And then apparently
Yeah,
there's a
they did.
UFO sighting. So I have to. Sadly, I'm gonna have to read about this later because I don't even want to read about it right now. I'm over the
Yeah.
ancient alien cargo cults right now with these guys. I'll tell you what.
There's so many. There's so many.
It's so ridiculous. So who is
Oh
like
my
who is Brandon
gosh.
Fugel though in you know the Utah mix, because like the Utes, I'm sorry, the Ute mix. What do y'all call it there? Utes, the two Utes.
Yeah, the Utes.
It's like the
Well-
Joe Pesci from you know the
Utes.
My Cousin Vinny says the Utes. He's like, what are you saying? The Utes. It says
Yeah.
the Used.
Yeah, the U's. Yeah, no, he's definitely in the club.
Yeah,
He
'cause
does
he's
rich
big time real
people
estate,
shit.
right?
Yeah, rich people shit. All about it. And you can't even get him to like interview or go there or anything unless you're like way up there, you know, or gonna give him a bunch of
Yeah.
money. Like what's his name that does the silly ghost show, Ghost Adventure thing, you know.
Oh,
something
Zach
like
Bagans.
that. Yeah. It's gotta be like something like that. If it's anything actually historical or whatever, I don't think he does that unless it's for buddies, right? Like in Utah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the elite. Yeah.
I've gotten that same vibe from the guy too. So like he's basically been given an entire empire though of real estate stuff though, right? Like he's just kind of a front man, it almost seems like, in that operation. He's
Oh,
because he's an idiot. If you listen to the guy talk, he's an idiot. I have a friend, one of my dude, Detective Portal. He frequently trolls Brandon Fugel on Twixter and says the most ridiculous stuff and gets Fugel to retweet him. Like, is this guy a moron? Does he not realize that you're trolling him? And then he'll retweet it like like
that's
he's a fan or something.
funny.
I don't know, but listen to the guy talk. You feel like he's stuck in like a very early teenage mentality. He never progressed past that.
Dude, sweet. Just kidding.
Right? That's exactly the kind of attitude he
Yeah.
portrays, I feel like.
Well,
So,
these
are you familiar
people are
with
bloodline? Yeah, they're blood. He's probably bloodline. I don't know for sure. I haven't seen.
No,
but-
he is. They started one of the towns up there, and they were his family were all bishops in the ward in that town for many years. So he's
There it
definitely in the
is.
mix. I don't know how, like, what it looks like going back. I just know like his father and grandfather and great grandfather, you know, they're all in this one town there just north of Salt Lake. I don't remember the name of the town off the top of my head, but I'll look it up. Are you
Every
familiar
time
with
me
the-
and JJ go down a rabbit hole on like some famous Mormon person, they're always in the club. They're always their
Yeah.
bloodline, like genealogy wise, it's in the club. Yeah.
Absolutely, it's without fail, it seems, right?
Literally. Yeah.
Are you familiar with a fellow by the name of Stephen Greenstreet, who's done a series on Skinwalker Ranch and other UFO
Mm-mm.
nonsense for the New York Post? He's a former. He grew up Mormon. He went on a mission, and and Fugel actually invited him out to the ranch to try to prove that there was a bunch of
Maybe I
paranormal
did.
phenomenon going on.
Was this on Netflix or something? I think I saw that.
He did it on his own New York Post series on YouTube.
Okay.
It was like a 6-part series. I'll put a link in the show notes for folks.
He was another
I
Mormon.
think I watched it. Yeah.
Fugel's pretty tight-lipped, like you were saying there, Heidi. He only does highly produced shows that he produces there on the Skinwalker Ranch show. He's the executive producer, so he goes and says what goes on that screen. But he gave time to Stephen Greenstreet on account of his background, I think, because he was a Mormon. And he's also a grad from not from BYU, but where did Fugel
the
go?
Utes.
Maybe
Yeah, the
Ute.
Utes.
Yeah, they're both Utes. So. I think that's why I gave him, the invitation and some time, because it was horrible press.
Probably
It was
member of the Skull
absolutely
and
horrible.
Bones. Probably member of the Skull and Bones Society of Utah. And you guys should watch. My son, I had never really put two and two together with like esoteric type stuff. I knew about Skull and Bones, but on the outward. And my son's like, Mom, I went to this game and they do weird stuff like they hold their hands and they chant a certain way for the football team and they call it charging the house. And I was like, what the hell? And he's like, yeah. And he told me all about it. I tried to find a video of it, but I hadn't found one. I mean, I didn't do the biggest deep dive that day, but he was telling me all these different things and something about a torch. And I was like, yeah, I hope you didn't participate in any of that. And he's like, I'm not stupid. I didn't do that.
Right.
I was like, good. Yeah. What? Why are they doing that at a football game?
Yeah, that seems
there's
odd,
no
right?
way. Charging the house. And then something about the light and there was a torch. And I'm like, yeah, this
So
sounds
some
like
very
where-
ritualistic stuff, huh?
Yeah. I was like, wow. Okay, then. That's weird.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar there was a Skull and Bones out there in Utah until a few years ago. My dude Recluse over at the Farm Mach 2 podcast that brought that to my attention. I was like, holy shit, that's odd because Bill, Bob Bennett went there, right? And I'm sorry, Bill Bennett, Bob Bennett, Bob
Yes.
Bennett. Yeah, I was getting mixed up with his nephew, who was my bishop. His name was Bill. His name
Oh
was
my
Bill.
gosh.
So
Yeah, it's
so
just
and Bill and I had a lot of
weird.
beef because he wanted me to pay tithing. I wanted nothing to do with it. So.
You're like,
he did
thanks
give me
anyway.
recommends though still to go to the temple. I was like, why are you recommending me still if I'm not following the rules?
You're like, oh well, that's okay. Let me go in, do my little chanting. No, just kidding.
Yeah, it was all none of that stuff ever sat well with me. The whole recommends, the meetings, like them asking me questions. I'm like, let me ask you a few questions here, buddy. What's
right?
What are you up to in your off time? What are you
Let me
doing?
see your phone. Let me see
let me
your
see
phone.
let me see your stuff. You're criticizing me here, bud. Be the
That's
judge of you.
funny. Yeah, no
Yeah, these are the
kidding.
conversations old Bob's nephew and I would have when he was my bishop.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some strange things, especially where it's never been done anywhere else, but they did it here, right? And we know why, because the family that set it up is Mormons, like the family.
Yeah,
for Skull and
that's a
Bones.
good point. And these people all stay together, and it is generational. So, and on that note, not only was Bob Bennett's nephew my bishop in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is weird, right? When you start combining these other factors, I also grew up with a Lyman, and a paternal
Oh.
descendant from Asa Lyman, one of the original 12 apostles of Joseph Smith. I also grew up same age group as well from a paternal descendant of Alma Holland. Was it Alma Holland? It was another early church leader, Holland.
Oh
And
man,
we had Becks there. We had all of the families.
Taylors.
Did we have Taylors? We might not have had Taylors. So my Boy Scout troop leader's wife was a descendant of Joseph Smith. So we had a lot of weird representation like that. I'll get back to the Taylors.
Fugel's
Oh
involved
yeah.
too, the Boy Scouts somehow.
Yeah, well, the Mormons comprise like 40% or 50% of the Boy Scout, membership. So until a few years ago when they pulled out, should have pulled out a lot sooner, just like these Boy Scout leaders should have.
Oh yeah.
So
exactly.
One of the I had a good time in the Boy Scouts and the Mormons. I had no problems, but I mean, I've obviously read a lot of problems from the Mormon Boy Scouts as well. But where's one of the early the first Boy Scout class action lawsuits for diddling was actually out of the Boy Scouts are the root of some of the recruitment allegedly in the Son of Sam cult there in Westchester County, New York, according to Maury Terry's research and whatnot. Strangely enough, it seems like that activity didn't stop at the state line because right across the state line there in Ridgefield, Connecticut, where my origins begin, that Boy Scout troop there, or Boy Scout council and 3 troops under that council, they had a lot of problems. And that was either the first or the second class action lawsuit against the Boy Scouts, which would ultimately, in the end, cause the Mormons to depart the Boy Scouts, despite them having the precise same problems within their Boy Scout program. So, a bit hypocritical, but
of course, right? Well,
yeah.
Isn't that exactly that? Yeah, always hypocritical is. I thought part of your temple questions. Haha. Just kidding.
It's kind of their MO, right? What's the password to get in the temple? Hypocrite. Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. It's bad. I mean, honestly, if you bring up like even Skull and Bones to their own members, like the prophet currently Russell M. Nelson, wrote in his own autobiography about it, and they'll tell you you're a liar straight to your face.
Yup.
Why
Oh,
is
well,
that?
the official story today. So they're still trying to push, or at least they were for a while, right? That there was no seer, stone, and hat. It was glasses with some lenses that were given to Joseph by God or something, right? What was the story for a while?
The breastplate of righteousness and
There
the
we
Urim
go.
and Thummim.
The Urim
Much
and
like
Thummim.
the Jewish story. And I mean, we get into, Jewish past history. I mean, it's so interesting that they say, no, these people, Joseph Smith didn't even know English, but he's studying how to do all this other stuff. And why, right? If he's a dumb farm boy. Sure.
No, that's right. Yeah, the Blue Oyster
Yeah,
Cult's
Hebrew.
apparently processians. They're apparently processed church members.
Yeah.
So Joseph Smith was so well versed in the ancient languages, he could read ancient Egyptian, right?
Well, his uncle that helped, and that's a good one, start Dartmouth, sure knew how to speak languages since he was, it was a cousin, professor of languages and one of the first at Dartmouth. And then, his other cousin, the doctor that saved his leg. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. At Dartmouth, right?
Nathan.
That was an uncle or a cousin?
But a cousin. And then they chased him out of town. And that's why Hiram couldn't finish his schooling to become basically a priest to these. When people hear the Indian school, I think Indians were there. That's not what it was. They were teaching them how to be like priests type thing to go out and teach the Native Americans. It didn't have to do with them coming there. And so I think it's funny. Everybody always says, oh, that's not the same, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay. Nathan that saved, and she just calls him this is from Lucy Mack Smith's book. Nathan, Dr. Nathan, she didn't say Nathan Smith. That was his name.
Right.
Yeah. Cousin on both sides to both of them, the mother and the father. And he got chased out of town for body snatching for the medical school. And then he went and started Yale's medical school. He is the father of Yale's medical school, Dr. Nathan Smith. I got to do a whole episode. I should probably have you do that with me because that would be a good one on Hiram, or we could do it on the Rejects if you're down. I've got a whole bunch of information about that. I wrote a whole 5-page essay front and back on this stuff.
No, that sounds awesome.
I cover Yale too. That would actually be a good story.
Yeah. It'll introduce
all these Ivy League schools started that way, right? They were all religious schools, right, for teaching folks how to be priests and whatnot. And today they produce things like tampons in men's restrooms. I think that was originated at Dartmouth as well.
But the dumbest thing.
I know the halls of Dartmouth. Women have periods, or men have periods.
Yeah, exactly. Dumbest thing ever. That they sit there and say, these people are uneducated farm people. And I'm like, get the hell out of here. Stop it. Stop.
Well, then what do you call what do you call the administrator that made the call to install tampons in men's toilets? Are they uneducated? Because they seem pretty uneducated.
That's a little different, right? That's today's ridiculousness that we all are in this weird timeline with. Oh my gosh.
I'll also have to look at Fugel's genealogy because I'm almost convinced he's got to be like a Parley P. Pratt or an Oliver Cowdery type of character, right? One of those guys, right?
He's an Elon. He just was given the stuff and said, here you go. And it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
He talked too much shit on Brandon. Brandon
Fugel. Interesting with Brandon too is that that company that he has, it's like a fake it's something from a comic book, correct?
Yeah, it's some weird company and he doesn't do anything with it. And
am I back?
I'm like, yes, you're back. The company, he was talking about Brandon's company.
Yeah, it's like adamantium or something, or I don't know.
That weird science thing he claims to do. Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like
a comic book though too.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it is, dude. And guess where he got that idea from? Hal Putoff, OT7 Scientologist, an aviary member, UFO, UAP, PSYOP extraordinaire, recently seen on the Joe Rogan Experience, of course. But, this is the guy from SRI to the aviary in the 90s to the Stars Academy with Tom DeLonge. He's just been lying to people about fucking alien stuff for decades, and he's a high-ranking Scientologist. So when you say, dude names after a comic book, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. And again, he does... he tries to stir up money around these inventions, and he's never produced anything. It's just all charlatan stuff, you know.
What I find interesting is with him, you get
I
like
forgot about that.
you get that type of name coming from like comic book shit. And I think it's like the metal that was like in Wolverine and everything. It was something like that.
That's exactly what that is.
Yeah, and
Exactly
and
what
then
that
you
is.
got and then you got Peter Thiel with his like what is Lord of the Rings and fucking like they both have like very weird
Yeah.
names for their companies off of like fictional shit,
Yep.
and they're into like weird stuff.
That's what I was getting at with him being stuck in a childlike mentality as well. If you look at his office, it's all this comic book and movie memorabilia stuff.
Oh, he's
He
obsessed with
talks like a teenager. Oh, dude, I'll put a link in the description with this Stephen Greenstreet series from New York Post. But he tells Greenstreet he's building a Scooby Doo funhouse for Halloween for the kids for Halloween. Just wild ass shit like that, dude. Just wild ass shit.
That's so weird. And he's out in the middle
Like
of
a
nowhere.
full blown haunted house, like a mansion.
Yeah.
Full blown haunted mansion.
I think we should go.
Oh, dude, it's like this lady's asking about Gematria.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't answer that. They're tell it to L, but you're talking to Nick. He's got a wide range of experience in Gematria.
Yeah, go check. We actually just had a guest on a few days ago live.
Yeah, I missed it. I was so sad.
Yeah, we've I've even myself have even covered. I think if we have a 2-part series on Gematria and Cypher. So yeah, it might be like a year or two old now, but definitely go check it out if you're looking for Gematria. Occult Rejects definitely has it.
Oh yeah,
for
the
sure.
Occult Rejects has lots and lots. Nick's been pumping stuff out left and right.
This shit I put out like 2 years ago. People probably don't even realize that I did. There's things I'll tell JJ and he'll be like, "Oh, I didn't even know you did that."
That happens a lot actually. I'm like, "Holy shit!" All right. And I've gone to check out some of those. And I listen to the Gematria stuff. Like, it interests me. I don't know much about it, but I just know that you often cover it from a lot of different angles.
Yeah, I've even used it in true crime, which I thought was weird. Remember I was saying that there's a couple of cases. I think with the Idaho 4, Gilgo, and one other one, I was getting a lot of the same repeating numbers, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
like, it was like this is like the code to like mass murder. Oh yeah, well that too. Yeah. That's the code to the play. Yeah.
I don't think Human did it alone by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, the evidence seems to support his wife has more involvement than he does.
I don't understand that. If you really think about it, there's more evidence of her on the bodies than him.
Right. And she has just this questionable alibi. She's like, "Oh no, I was out of town. I did out of town stuff." And then remember, John Reagan, his assistant, followed up on that, and that story was bullshit. Remember?
Yeah.
They got evidence from that hotel that story was bullshit.
Yep.
When I say his assistant Lena, they were both far more knowledgeable than us in that case. But we should have them on again to have another discussion about.
Yo, you know what sucks? He wanted to do another press conference, and he was gonna have me come down and film it, and I'd already left New York, and I was like, "Dude,
oh, that does suck, man."
Yo, they literally had hit me up and asked me to do that. I was like, "Fuck."
Nick is a workaholic. Somebody said you're a workaholic.
That shit would have made Channel 12 News. It always does whenever he goes on there. I would have made that shit.
Nick.
Been provided.
Oh yeah, I mean he's
provided by the
Occult
paychecks. That would have been on the bottom. I would have made sure that was.
Oh yeah.
Right. Now we should link back up with them and see if they got any updates, because I know recently in that case it's been finally made public that Othram Labs, the same folks at the root of the Brian Koberger questionable sheath DNA, touch DNA, is the folks who are involved with identifying Uhrman via similar touch DNA off of a piece of pizza. So I have a lot of questions about that. You know what I mean? Because again,
DNA they use is bullshit, man.
Pizza.
That's what I'm saying. They have his wife's hairs, right? Oh, what's that, Heidi?
Of course it was a pizza. Of course it was a pizza.
Oh, are you familiar with this story of the Uhrman?
No, but
I'm
just dissecting the situation and saying that seems weird.
You have an accurate assessment, ma'am, of the circumstances we're discussing, because if I were to lay out the details, you'd be like, "That's even more suspect than my initial suspicions." Because it's very suspect the way this whole thing went down, and the way they landed on the student and the chief of police, who got fired. He's involved in ostensibly snuff porn, but definitely or snuff films. I'm sorry, definitely snuff films and child porn allegedly, but definitely deeply involved in this prostitution network and some sort of pornography filming. This crackhead kicked in his car window one night of his unmarked SUV and stole a duffel bag. They worked that crackhead over so bad they beat that dude senseless.
Oh my gosh!
Oh yeah. We lost them. I think that whole thing's a psyop. I think I mean I think a lot of it's a bullshit story, like the way they're presenting it, the way that they're even
Wow.
catching.
You know what it sounds like
There
to
you go.
me?
That's what
is-
that was a good point on my summary where I was going. It's a bullshit story the way they're presenting. Because there's no way you have this police chief dude, this all this other shady stuff going on, and Huerman's the only guy, and you have almost no evidence again except for pizza crust.
You want to this is how I look at it. I know this. I'm going to be taking it out there, but again, if I was to pull it up, I don't want to. Maybe I'll spend the time and show it before we end the show. So it's not crazy. When I talk about the optic nerve, it does, like I said, it looks like a penis or a dick, kind of. and they show you when it gets cut down the middle, what it looks like that way, and it looks like a fucking wheel or a goddamn fucking pizza pie. It looks like a pizza pie, and that hangs right into the. It's basically a cup in the back of your eye that has the blood in there, and you have this optic nerve that's hanging in there. Now, think about it. It's like the story starts off. The only reason we know Huerman is because of this pizza box. And then there's a bunch of murder, and it all ends up with people being buried at the beach. So now you have the blood with the pizza. And then at the beginning of the eye, where you see everything, is water and sand, kind of. So this, to me, it's just like you even see like the whole progression of like how the crimes ended and where, I don't know. It's just, there was too much weird shit with that whole crime, even with the gematria. There was too many things that matched up. There was even things with him and BTK that matched, and BTK claimed that he was a copycat.
Why is there always homeless guys? Even at JFK, like there was the 3 tramps, right? There's always some homeless person.
Oh,
that gets
yeah.
blamed.
Well, there was tons of
Yeah.
things that were coming out of the Book of the Lies, too. There was a Peaches. There's an Oyster Bay. It was
Sure.
weird shit. It was weird shit.
And the 3 tramps, I think in the JFK situation, at least in the King killed 33 senses, those are representative of Masonic folklore, correct?
Right. And then they never, they just basically got them out of there. That was all they did. Like it was just, they were like just helping them get out.
Heidi, they walked to
Well-
the Masonic temple there in Dealey Square, I believe, at one point in time.
Yeah. And then
they
they're
were
like,
processing.
go get the tramps. And then they picked them up. And then that was all you ever heard. And it was done. Never heard about that again.
That was also the site of the original Masonic Lodge in Texas. The first lodge was there in Dealey Plaza.
That's so weird.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone
it's
involves a
always-
Mason. It's a lot of Masonic. It's a lot. I think that is a strong argument to me. That's a very Masonic ritual. Whatever happened there,
The king, yeah, probably.
whatever the outcome was, right?
Yeah,
But as far as Gilgo Beach situation, Nick, who delivered that sand to the area that helped bury these bodies?
Yeah, remember that? I was
Oh.
like, yo, don't even tell me. This is another thing that I've theorized, and I do think it's quite possible. I think the Rotary Club might be involved with some of the Lady Bird Lake things. And then somehow I think when I was looking them up, something popped up and I was like, yo, they were at Gilgo Beach. And when I looked into it, I was like, yo, they're the ones who are in charge of sanding Gilgo Beach.
So they literally buried these bodies. The Rotary Club did.
I would not doubt it.
Wow.
I was just like, yo, what's the odds?
What
of
the fuck? You're right? Like, what the fuck?
Come on.
Check their rosters for some Mormons. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah. Do they have is there a strong Mormon presence in around New York City?
I couldn't
Just
tell
the
you.
Rotary Club, though. The Rotary
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, I feel like out there is probably.
Oh, and another thing too about the Rotary Club, they all have boats. So that's like another thing too. That's why I think they might have been at Lady Bird Lake, because it's like if you're just out in the water looking like the Rotary Club,
Then you blend in. We lost you, JJ.
Oh yeah, I haven't met a lot of Mormons out there. I spent a lot of time out in like Smithtown and Comac and that regions.
Oh
and,
shit! Yeah, you're out by my. I mean, that was real close to my hood, man.
Yeah, not a lot. Yeah, my dude's wife is from Comac, and then
Shit.
they moved over to Smithtown at one point. But yeah, he was an Air Force cop with me, but then he was an Air Force recruiter for years, and then he's a state police out there now. Has been for years. Yeah, I never really a lot of he's involved in a lot of organizations. You know what I mean? I don't know, Elks. I think he's an Elks guy or something, maybe. You know, whatever, FOP. You know, whatever else. He could be whoever else knows. But what I'm saying is, everyone in those organizations that he's involved with seem to be Jewish or Italian, and I never really encountered a lot of Mormons out on Long Island.
And then you have the Lions Club that I think is connected with them.
Oh yeah.
Which
Yeah,
They're
one?
all
always
those
Which one?
a few
clubs.
blocks away. The Lions Club is always a few blocks away from a fucking Rotary, almost
Yup.
all the time. They're right near each other. And then
Yup.
them I find interesting. What do they do as like a thing to give back to the community? They do eye exams. How
Yup.
occult? How occult?
We know some Lions Club folks that are doing some questionable activities, right, Nick?
Yeah, Kathy, my butt.
The
Uh-oh.
Idaho Latah County coroner, Kathy Mabutt. You got the Lions Club right there in the background for you.
Like this thing, man.
Oh
I
my
was like,
gosh,
oh, it's
that's
Kathy,
so
my butt.
funny.
You know,
Oh my
I felt like she
gosh.
needed some gremlins behind her because she's kind of a gremlin herself. You know, she's pretty evil.
Gremlin.
Yo, hasn't she even like just words that have come out of her mouth makes the case look shady?
Oh, dude, they had to tell her to shut up because she and the mayor were making all sorts of statements at the beginning. You're like, nope, these are contrary to what our narrative is. So shut your mouth.
At one point, it was just like I think she was even like, well, I don't know if there were stabs or like I think the whole stab or scratch, like, wasn't she even like mind fucking that kind of or
Yeah, dude. And she changed the time. Initially, it was between 3 and 4, and then then it's obviously almost 4:30 later. By the time it's everything she said's a mess. But Heidi, there's a lot of Mormon stuff going on here. This Muppet here is not a Mormon.
Wow.
But there's a lot of Mormon stuff in this situation. And strangely enough, did you know this is only the second Mormon governor of the state of Idaho?
Oh, really? What?
Right? That was my reaction as well. I was like, wait a second. And I think
mean,
the
it
first one
seems
was by accident.
It should be a lot. I mean,
Right.
it's growing
Right.
up. I grew up there when I was young until I was like 12. It was all
Right.
a lot Mormon. Yeah.
A lot of congressional, a lot of state, House and Congress representation, Mormon stuff. But yeah, I think was the first governor was 78, maybe. The governor he got appointed as the new U.S. senator. So the lieutenant governor, who was a Mormon, and not the governor wasn't, but lieutenant governor was a Mormon. So that but he wasn't elected. So I think this guy's the first elected Mormon governor.
Oh.
Brad Little. And then
Wow.
is his name Brad Little? Is that a different governor? That's a different governor. Idaho governor. No, it's Brad Little. Okay.
Okay.
Too many names.
Yeah.
But the other Brad Little is I think he's the first elected governor Mormon in Idaho, and then they have an attorney general right now that's also a governor. I'm sorry, it's also a Mormon, right? So he's the one who's really behind the prosecution in this case. He's got 2 deputy attorney generals they got their hands up the local prosecutor Muppet, butts making their mouse move, right? But
oh man,
that's who's prosecuting this Koberger stuff. So there's a lot, and there's a lot of Mormon stuff involved in the case. So there's an infamous character I call the Gooch. She's the
I heard
Idaho's,
you guys joking about that the other day.
the Gooch.
I was like, what is he talking about?
Well, her name's
no.
Victoria Gooch. She's the Idaho State Police Detective. She plays the most important roles in all of the case, but no one knew about that for 2 years because of all the sealed documents, right? So she's doing the key interview with the surviving roommate that's using the prosecution of Koberger. She's doing the investigation allegedly into the Koberger DNA, and allegedly she's the one who transports that DNA to that Othram Labs down in Texas.
Boy.
She plays a key role. Her husband's deeply pioneering Mormon, but she's actually connected. She's actually the daughter of a military U.S. Army intelligence officer who was the protege of Colonel Paul Tate, who by Gooch's own admission, it seems her father went undercover with his boss Paul Tate into the hippie movement circa 1970 to investigate his daughter Sharon Tate's murder by the Manson family.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's a mess. Holy cow.
Big time. And that surviving roommate that's using the prosecution, he's also from a pioneering Mormon family. And her pioneering Mormon Mortensons actually pioneered across the U.S. with the Gooches. They crossed paths in Nebraska. So years later, yeah.
Uh-oh.
We
lost you, JJ. Come back. He's like, I'm stuck. Yeah. There you are. Yes.
Isn't that wild, though? 150 years apart, we have these pioneering Mormon families involved in the same weird parapolitical event today, right? But they knew each other in 1856 in Nebraska, right?
Wow.
Pioneering West.
Find that with like the Salem witch trials, I'm sure, at this point, too.
Oh, dude. I've been so deep in Salem witch stuff lately.
No, I even know from Ron. He's like, yo, eventually, like those 2 families ended up like marrying and stuff. But it's like, I don't know each other.
The Salem witch trials, Joseph's grandpa had somebody hung at. He's involved.
Have you heard the name Mary Parsons?
Yes.
Isn't it her? Isn't that her
Jack
that he hung?
Jack Parsons' fourth great grandmother, who was accused of being a witch but acquitted.
Oh, quit
Well, I
it.
shit you not. When I had heard that Parsons last name, I swear I was like, no, there's no way. That's true.
Yeah.
I was like,
her
I was like,
son.
maybe it's too much of a coincidence. Like, just the last name
Right.
is too common, maybe back then.
It's a little
was
too
like,
on the nose, right? It's a little too on the
Yeah,
nose, right?
I was just like, that's too weird. That couldn't happen.
Oh man.
I'm like, oh, it's not that easy. Like, I couldn't just be like, oh, I just happened to guess that. And it was right.
Yeah. So her son was I believe I think it was her son or her grandson. It was her grandson, Parsons. No, it was her son. Was a captain in the Massachusetts chapter of the Society of Cincinnati. So seems like Parsons not only has society heritage, he's got that society heritage. Mother is happens to be well, at least accused of being a witch, right? I don't know enough about the Salem story to know how involved she was there, but I mean, isn't it odd, right?
And Sarah, so Mary Easty and Sarah Wilds were two women that were hung, and they were accused by Joseph's great grandfather Samuel Smith.
Yeah, and they they got murked. What are we talking here?
Yep, gone.
What
Yep.
what are we talking, like burned at the stake? What we drowned?
Hung.
What's going on here?
Yeah,
Hung.
hung.
Yeah.
Yep. And so
I thought they were doing some
yeah,
Monty Python style, which they throw her in the water. If she floats, she's a witch.
check
If she
and
thinks she's
see.
a witch.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this was and I mean, they also had other people, I guess, that were in there. They say check the LDS databases, blah blah blah. Like
One
I
of
don't
the
know.
one of the George Bushes, George number 1, number 2. There, one of their foremothers, Bush, was accused of being a witch
Maybe she
in the
was.
Salem witch trials. I don't know. Well, yeah, I was saying. I mean, well, I think it goes for all these people. You know what I mean? Maybe they were onto something.
I think methinks they protest too much, and they were the ones that were doing the stuff, and they hung the
Right.
people that knew. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And whatever was going on there, I feel like there was a lot of just a lot of subterfuge. Whatever was going on there, right? I don't think it's quite as cut and dry as history's made it out to be.
It's wild. Yeah, that's for sure. Who even knows?
Yeah.
Whew. Well, we went down all kinds of roads tonight. That was
I was about to say we got wasn't what I was expecting. It was a great conversation. I appreciate Heidi and Nick.
Absolutely. Yeah. Still way fun. We had us a little
I hate to say it, but better.
Yeah, probably.
Full blown occult rejects Fridays here.
That's right.
I think folks enjoyed it here from looking at the chat. I was able to keep up tonight as
yeah.
my shows. I'm trying to maintain a narrative in my brain. I'm like, I can't do that and follow the chat. So it's a little bit easier for me on Fridays.
Yeah.
It is hard. That's hard to make sure. Yeah.
No, so I appreciate the folks in the chat there too. Yeah.
Amazing time, like always.
Awesome. No, we appreciate you joining us here, Heidi. Great conversation. I always enjoy talking Mormon and other parapolitical events with you. You got some great stuff over there at the Unfiltered Rise for sure. I just listened to your episode with Jen the Ninja, fellow occult reject.
I love Jen.
Thoroughly enjoyed that show.
He's gone for a minute, right? Isn't he out of town for a bit?
Yeah, I think
he's back on the map.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
he sent a message, Jen. I think, saying he was getting on a plane or something, right?
Yeah.
Well,
check it out, you guys.
Asked me.
Nick's
go ahead.
Great too. Sorry, I was just gonna say Nick and JJ are great too. Check out Jen's show. I always have fun with you.
Great show. So much fun. No, appreciate it. No, for sure, Heidi. I really enjoyed your Jen. Jen's always blowing up my brain hole with all sorts of strange and ideas like. The show you were talking about with Greg Little that's coming out, like Greg Little, Little stunned. Yeah, he's like, I've never heard anyone ask me such great questions or commentary in the 40+ years of doing interviews. I'm like, holy shit, Jen, that's a compliment.
I was like, what the fuck?
I know, that was good. That was so nice that you said that.
Definitely gotta get that at some point.
Oh, Greg Little was great. I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of that show. It was fantastic. And unfortunately, I had to double book the time there, and I had to depart there near the end. But yeah, I certainly his ideas of the Adena, the giant human skeletons of the Adena mounds, as the Adena elite theory. I really like that theory.
Yes,
what he's put together there.
I think me and you were both on that same wavelength at the
Yeah.
same time. That was such a good show. I actually didn't know he was all about Edgar Casey, and I was just like, oh
No.
my gosh.
Yeah, that surprised me. Actually, I didn't
Yeah.
realize.
So that was fun.
A day or two
I had no
before.
idea. I just
Super good. Uh-oh.
I think that's because in one of his books, I think Edgar Casey is even mentioned in it, like in the name.
Yeah, he's in the Edgar Casey Society. That was crazy. And his wife helps run it. I was like, what?
Yeah.
JJ's back. All right.
well,
Poor JJ.
no, that's great
Rough
stuff.
night.
I'm actually I look forward to listening to that, even though I feel like I just listened to it already, but I'm going to listen to it again because Greg Little, a lot of great commentary in there from Greg Little. Well, I mean, everybody, the whole panel, and again, Jen's some of his commentary again left Greg Little speechless, and with a compliment of saying that was the best questions and commentary in 40 plus years of interviews. So that's
amazing.
Definitely check that one out. If you like mound stuff, folks of the interwebs, check that one out.
For sure.
Awesome.
Bible of mounds.
Definitely. Well, thanks so much, you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate Nick and Heidi both your all this time in convo. And you got any closing statements for us there, Heidi? You can plug anything you need to, but any closing statements on tonight's convo?
I had a great time. I just thought this was fun and went everywhere it needed to go. I love being a part of the Occult Rejects. I found my home, and I'm so grateful, and I'm grateful to all of you. So thank you so much. Yes. And check out the Unfiltered Rise, check out the Occult Rejects, check out the Occult Rejects Institute. And yeah. Thank you.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you, Heidi. Nick, do you appreciate the time as always, sir, and co-host of Fridaze here? And
yes, love it.
We adapt and overcome here, even when our guests do not maintain the schedule and fail to appear. Hopefully we can get him on in the future. Apparently he's too busy erasing demons tonight. So
there we go. Yeah. That's what he's doing. He's erasing demons, so he couldn't make it, unfortunately. He's out there with his little stabbing motherfuckers out there.
Right.
I guess real quick, I would like to plug it. This time I have it correct. I know last week I screwed it up. This Monday, the Occult Rejects live with Craig.
Yeah.
So I think at 2:00.
2 p.m.
Yes, we do have Decoding Britney tomorrow morning at 11 in the morning. We're doing an early one there. Yeah, we got Decoding Celebrities coming on.
Is it 11 PST perhaps?
No, AM, EST. Yeah.
Damn it. Okay, I was trying to buy some extra time. I didn't realize it was that early in the day.
Yeah, we got her coming on. Interesting thing is that she's actually even gotten in touch with somebody that was even friends with Britney Spears, and I mean, you see the pictures. Yeah, they did. It's very interesting. This guy was even. I went and looked at the account, the guy followed me actually. I went and looked at his account. He even has pictures of him with Michael Jackson. So this, who knows? Who knows with this guy?
I didn't realize we're getting that weird. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, she did make connections with him, and she's had him on his podcast, and she's decodes a lot of Britney's weird posts. So she's trying to. So I think a lot of them are really bugged out, and very interesting where she goes with them. So I think it will be a fun one if people can catch that tomorrow morning. Definitely interesting. It'd be a good wake and bake for sure.
JJ's frozen. There he is.
Oh, I'm back. Right. All right, there we go.
I'm done. I keep screwing you up whenever I talk.
No, we're under tornado watch here, so it's been wild. So luckily it's done better than I expected. I was just gonna make some comment about leave Britney alone, but no, it's the time's passed. But I look forward to the conversation.
Yeah.
Can't wait. See you guys. Bye.
And Operation GCD, like I said, Back to the Future, Occult and Esoteric Review this coming Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And Heidi, I hope you can join us. Jen and fellow Occult Reject Cosmic Peach there. Julia will be joining myself and Nick on the review. Should be a great conversation. It's still one of my favorite movies today. I think it some films from the 80s don't play. I think it still plays,
Yes, it
still plays.
So, and Operation GCD Live Sundays coming soon here on the 25th. Patreon link, subscriber only Patreon link in the show notes there. And of course, you'll find Nick and Heidi's links there in the show notes as well. So I appreciate everyone's time and appreciate your time and the conversation there, Nick and Heidi.
Of course.
Well, that's it. That's the show here, folks. So the next time you're out on the town, visiting your local watering holes, or perhaps just meandering around, and you hear the unmistakable sounds of metal clanking, and you spot signs of a disturbance, but check your six. Look in that garbage can, 'cause you never can tell. The GCDs may be loose in your town.